Rajasthan and Ashok Gehlot. Will Rajasthan break that cycle? For the BJP in Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the tallest leader and the incumbent chief minister, somebody who's been a familiar face in that state for the last 18 years. Will he be able to buck triple and four-time anti-incumbency? They've not declared him officially as the chief ministerial candidate. And of course, there is Telangana. How can you forget the southern state? Because here it is critical. The BRS has been in power for the last 10 years. Could it be a triangular contest between the BRS, the Congress and the BJP, or will it be a bipolar fight between the Congress and the BRS straight? And what may that mean if there is a regime change in Hyderabad? What may that mean for 2024? And the most important one, Nari Shakti, will be put to test because this will be the first election after the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill. Remember, both Congress and the BJP have been wooing the woman voter, and the woman voter has now emerged as a significant voting bloc both for the BJP and for the Congress. There are all kinds of freebies and schemes that are being announced, guarantees that are being announced for the woman voter in particular. Will the woman voter turn up in large numbers, and who will she back, the Congress or the BJP? That's going to be a critical question. So we're setting up the stage for what is likely to be a big firecracker election. Remember, in 2018, the Congress did very well. It won all three of these heartland states, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and then it went on to lose the big battle for India, the general election of 2019. Will it be a repeat in 2024, or will the Congress buck that trend? Will the BJP, which is banking heavily on the Prime Minister, his image, his charisma, his popularity, but we have seen the limitations of that in the recently concluded Karnataka Assembly election. So all this and more we will discuss with our editors, our reporters, as we count down to the big press conference by the Election Commission at exactly noon today. But first, what has been already a series of campaign blitzkriegs, both by the Prime Minister, matched of course by Rahul Gandhi.
आप देखिए, जो आज 20-22 साल के हैं ना, उनको तो शायद पता ही नहीं होगा क्योंकि उस समय वो 8, 10, 12 साल के होंगे। उनको पता ही नहीं होगा कि मोदी आने से पहले क्या हाल था। तब आए दिन कांग्रेस सरकार के हजारों करोड़ रुपए के घोटाले हेडलाइन बना करते थे।
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी को देखिए, देश की सारी संपत्ति अपने अरबपति मित्रों को दे दी। लाखों करोड़ों के इनके कर्ज माफ कर दिए। जब किसानों को के कर्ज को माफ करने की बात उठती है तो कहते हैं कि ऐसा नहीं है।
जो पैसा गरीब पर खर्च होना था, वो पैसा कांग्रेस के नेताओं की तिजोरियों में जा रहा था। और मैं तो इन नौजवानों को कहूंगा, ये तो ऑनलाइन वाली पीढ़ी है। जरा गूगल पे जाके सर्च करेंगे 2013-14 के अखबारों की जरा हेडलाइन पढ़ दीजिए, क्या हालत थी देश की।
कोई झगड़ा नहीं इंडिया और भारत के बीच में, मगर इन्होंने कोशिश की भैया इंडिया और भारत के बीच में लड़ाई करा। थोड़े दिनों में उनको पता लग गया कि जनता इसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगी। जनता ये बात को सुनने के लिए तैयार ही नहीं है।
जब नीयत पवित्र होती है, प्रयासों में पारदर्शिता होती है, तो परेशानियों को पार करके भी परिणाम लाती है।
All right, so could this be the first India versus Bharat election, the first big test of the India alliance? Although in the three heartland states, it's a straight-up fight between the BJP and the Congress. Many things will be put to test. This whole business of the OBC chunk after the caste census in Bihar, will that have an impact? The woman voter, I spoke about that a moment ago. All of these will be put to test. And of course, the biggest one, of course, is whether the Congress can wrest back Madhya Pradesh, a state which it feels it won in 2018, whether it can hold on in Rajasthan despite all the internal fighting and the rebellion between Sachin Pilot and Ashok Gehlot, and of course Chhattisgarh, whether the BJP can challenge Bhupesh Baghel. But I want to introduce now our guests and our reporters and editors who are joining us here in our studios as well as on the ground. The Election Commission press conference, like I said, will happen at 12 noon, led by the Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar. Here in our studios, Rahul Shivshankar is our consulting editor here at Network 18. Aman Sharma is joining us, our political editor from our newsroom. And our reporters are out on the ground. It's a big and busy Monday morning for all of them. Payal is joining us from the BJP headquarters. Arunima is joining us from the Election Commission headquarters, where, of course, we're expecting this PC in under an hour from now. And Pallavi Ghosh, who tracks the Congress party, is also joining us. Let me start with you, Rahul. What is at stake in these 5 state elections?
I think the credibility of the Modi government's governance record, both in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Remember that the Madhya Pradesh election last time in 2019, as you've just said, Zaka, didn't quite go the way of the Bharatiya Janata Party. There was some reverse engineering, to put it politely, that got the BJP into power there under Shivraj Chauhan. But the fact is that you have a situation where one particular party prides itself on giving governance. Madhya Pradesh is that test. On the other side, for the Congress party, it's really about, as you said, holding on to Rajasthan, defying history. It's actually the Karnataka election in inverse, if you really look at it from one particular perspective, because the same factionalism that racked the BJP in Karnataka has actually manifested itself on the ground in Rajasthan, with Sachin Pilot, the Deputy Chief Minister there at one time, hitting the streets, holding a dharna against his own government's poor implementation of the most critical issue there, which was the crackdown on corruption. A lot is being made, of course, about BJP's infighting, the too many contestants really for that chief minister's post. But I think the BJP has decided all across these 5 state elections not to project anyone. It's the emphasis on collective leadership. And let's see if that actually has an impact. But as you were saying, it's the first real test of the India bloc. Figuratively speaking, it would be unfair because in Telangana, the Congress is, the principal opposition, but there's nobody else from the bloc that really can hold it up there. In the other states also, the others have a minimal presence. These are really straight-off contests. So it would be, I think, a bit of a stretch to say it's a test of the India bloc, but certainly it's a test of the India bloc's message, if nothing else.
And the most important party of the India alliance, which is the Congress party. Remember, 5 years ago in 2018, though they won the 3 heartland states, they lost them in the Lok Sabha elections quite badly. Rajasthan, all seats the Congress lost. Madhya Pradesh, they won just 1 seat. Again, in Chhattisgarh, I think they won just 1 seat. But let me go across to Aman Sharma, because one thing that is different this time from the BJP's point of view and its strategy going into these elections is they are not declaring a chief ministerial face, even in states where there is an incumbent chief minister. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a classic example. Why this sort of strategy? And, I said this a little earlier in the program as well. Even in Karnataka, they went on Mr. Modi's face. The only face that was being projected was Mr. Modi's. But we saw the limitations therein. Why then is the BJP confident and keen that this strategy will work in the heartland states?
See, Zaka, I think the first major reason obviously is anti-incumbency when it comes to Madhya Pradesh. Now, though Shivraj Singh Chauhan has been the chief minister for the last 17 years, he is the tallest OBC face that the party has in Madhya Pradesh, a state with nearly 49% OBC voters. And OBCs are the one who have brought BJP to power repeatedly in Madhya Pradesh, except in 2019 when we saw, 2018 when we saw the Congress come to power in Madhya Pradesh. BJP feels, I feel that is why they are going with this new mantra of collective leadership under Prime Minister Modi and the lotus symbol, because they feel that their established faces can maybe no longer pull in that kind of votes. Be it Shivraj Singh Chauhan in Madhya Pradesh, be it Vasundhara Raje in Rajasthan, or be it Raman Singh in Chhattisgarh. These have been established faces of the BJP for several years. In fact, Vasundhara Raje became chief minister twice after beating Mr. Ashok Gehlot very resoundingly. Same has been the case with Raman Singh, who has been the chief minister for 3 consecutive terms in Chhattisgarh. But BJP, I think, now feels that there is perhaps chance to give a chance also to maybe younger leadership, nurture some younger leadership, also create a sense of competition between the various established faces. So be it floating Mr. Narendra Singh Tomar as a candidate in Madhya Pradesh, while Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan's seat is still not announced, The talk of floating leaders like Gajendra Singh Shekhawat in Rajasthan, while Vasundhara Raje is also expected to be the candidate, and same is expected to be the strategy in Chhattisgarh as well. Let all your big faces contest, wait for the results to come in, see how it goes, and then choose the chief minister. I think that is the phase with which the BJP is going into these elections, Zaka.
Before I go to our reporter, something that Aman pointed out and Rahul had mentioned as well. This time, one difference that the BJP has managed to make is they've already announced tickets for about 79 seats in Madhya Pradesh. Now, why those
79, which were the really difficult ones?
exactly?
For the
So,
BJP.
out of these 79, 72 seats in the last election in 2018, 72 out of the 79, the Congress had won, and at a pretty, substantial vote margin. Congress had 46% of the vote share in these seats. BJP only had 36. If you were to look at overall, state-wise, the BJP had more vote share than the Congress, albeit by about 0.13% or so. But the Congress had more seat share, and it was just one short of majority. But I want to go back to that filter because those 79 seats are where they've fielded some heavyweights. Aman talked about, Mr. Tomar, Mr. Kulaste, Prahlad Singh Patel. These are sitting union ministers who've been asked to fight in these seats, which, like I said, the Congress had got a bulk of those seats last time. And many of these 70-odd seats, the BJP has not won in the last 3 election cycles. So what is the thinking there? Let me go across to Payal Mehta, who's joining us from outside the BJP headquarters. She covers the BJP for us. Is this a gamble? What is the thinking behind fielding people like Kailash Vijayvargiya, who is, putting his feet up and almost in semi-retirement? What is the idea behind asking all of these 70 plus and almost 80 plus folks to go out and campaign and contest?
There are 2 or 3 factors that can be looked into this sort of a step being done by the BJP. Zaka, in the history of the party, they've never announced these seats in advance. Yeah. These are very, very weak seats like you were mentioning. So the party wanted to give its leaders a chance to go ahead and campaign ahead of time so that they have enough time on their hands to hit ground running. As far as the announcement of the union ministers is concerned and Lok Sabha MPs is concerned, Zaka, the formula is very simple. When a union minister or when a Lok Sabha MP contests an election, he or she tends to influence not just his or her own assembly or constituency, but also the neighboring constituencies. That is something which the BJP has experimented with in the past also. You saw this happen in Bengal, though the results were not in their favor. At the same time, they tried to do this in Tripura where, the left bastion was won by Pratima Bhaumik. So that is something which they are looking at. And thirdly, and most importantly, a lot of these leaders have been around for a very long time. For example, Narendra Singh Tomar is going back to the state after 33 long years as well. So obviously the BJP can look this as an option to create an alternative leadership, because so far Shivraj Singh Chauhan's candidature has not been announced. If the party wants to experiment with that, that can be done. And secondly, this brings in an opportunity to induce new blood. Okay. Now, there are a lot of Lok Sabha MPs who have probably had multiple terms. For example, Virendra Kumar, who's another minister in the government from Madhya Pradesh, he has about 8 terms in the Lok Sabha as well. Is it time to bring in the new blood? If not bring in new blood now, then when? That's the question that is being asked as well. So obviously, all hands on the deck. Everybody is, everybody has to come along. There is no big job. There is no small job. There's nothing like, being an MLA and being an MP. Right. It is a party which is being kept first, and that's the whole idea that the BJP is really put in. And more names are going to be announced. Although there's just 79 MPs, beg your pardon, 79 names so far from Madhya Pradesh and 21 from Chhattisgarh. But there's Telangana, there's Rajasthan. Several ministers will be asked to contest, several MPs will be asked to contest. The party wants to put its best foot forward and go under the collective leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Okay, one of the things that the party feels was a mistake in the Karnataka election was waiting for the final month or so to declare its candidate list, and that of course led to rebellion in some sections and so on. So at least in these 79 seats out of 230 that they've declared, A, these are Congress bastion seats, and B, they've introduced some heavyweights, MPs and central ministers, etc., in the hope that their individual candidacy can sort of blunt the Congress's strength in those seats. But I also want to get a quick word in from Arunima, who's joining us from the Election Commission. So the last time it happened, if I remember correctly, Arunima, I think Chhattisgarh went to polls first in the first couple of phases, and then the other 2 states went on a single day. Are we looking at something similar this time around as well? What are the tentative sort of, because here in television, we're always obsessed about counting day, about result day. So are we tentatively looking at early December for counting day?
See, the elections for all the states are being announced together. The Mizoram is one of the states where the duration of the assembly actually ends in December. All the other states are, the duration is up to January. But if you're going to club Mizoram with all the other states, then of course you will have to ensure that counting happens in time for Mizoram assembly to get together as well. As far as the other states are concerned, Chhattisgarh, for reasons of security, has always seen two-phase elections. One phase sees the entire Bastar area go to polls, and the second phase, the rest of Chhattisgarh. Madhya Pradesh last time around saw, I think 28th of November was the date of polling for Madhya Pradesh, single phase. Rajasthan a week later in December. So this time Diwali is just around the corner around the same time. So will that be a factor when the EC takes a decision? Do you want, it's a big festival, Diwali is a big festival in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan. So do you want to keep that in mind while you take that decision? Politically speaking, everyone is just contemplating, whose vanvas is really going to end. Kamal Nath believes his gaddi was taken away from him, not by following the right means. So will it be, his comeback from vanvas, as Congress is calling it? In Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot is trying to bend the rules. It has always been one term for BJP, one term for Congress. If it's a single phase elections there, and model code of conduct kicks in from today. So no more announcements of any new welfare measures or freebies, as the BJP calls them. Has Ashok Gehlot government battered in the slog over enough to take them, through the lines? World Cup round the corner, so, cricket analogy, makes sense there. But we're all waiting. Just, if you give me 30 seconds, I'll just step out and show you. It's a full house here at the Election Commission. Not just the Chief Election Commissioner, but the two ECs and all the other officers in charge. They're all expected to take stage here in about, half an hour from now. And we are expecting the decision about the date of counting and the date of polling to come last. So bear with us for another hour at least.
All right. We'll come back to you, Arunima, as that press conference begins. But Rahul, one other factor that will be at play is, of course, this whole business of caste census, OBC dominance. For example, and I'll show this in the filter, in a moment. Shivraj Singh Chauhan rightfully says that he's the biggest OBC leader in Madhya Pradesh. Mr. Modi, of course, is the biggest OBC leader in the country. But this whole caste census in Bihar, has that sort of put a spanner in the works for the BJP? How are they going to respond to this?
I think this election, if you really look at it as a top line, one single line is Mandal 2.0 versus Kamandal 2.0. Remember, when you talk about Madhya Pradesh, you talk about a state where the BJP has perhaps the most intensive ground network in place. And it's been there initially. Yeah. The state of, at one point it was Madhya Bharat, if you remember. That's where the real genesis of the Jansang actually happened. So they have very deep roots. The problem, however, has been with, in the recent past, twofold. One, and remember also, in this particular state, the BJP was very quick to project OBC leaders.
Yeah.
So from Uma Bharti and then, of course, the chief minister there at that time, all of them were OBC leaders. So there has been a history of already trying to look at the caste equations from a different way. Now, the point here about the larger question about whether the caste census, etc., will come into play, of course, because that's fundamentally what the Congress has thrown its real lot behind, that narrative that, look, the BJP is waffling on the caste census because it's not intrinsically open to the idea of social mobility, etc., being a Brahmin party. But it's going to be very difficult for the Congress to run that campaign there, given the fact that the Prime Minister itself is an OBC. And he is, whether we like it or not, a very popular leader across North India at the very least. Yeah. So all elections are now turning into mini personality contests, whether it is at the state level or at the center. And you have a situation where both in Rajasthan and in Madhya Pradesh, personalities have influence in clusters. Therefore, it makes sense to not project any one individual. If you have a vote constituency behind Pilot, for example, in the Congress, you also have one behind Gehlot. Similarly, Mr. Chauhan and other leaders of the BJP, like Mr. Scindia, are dominant in various clusters. It makes sense to really weave a tapestry, a larger tapestry together. And that brings in, actually, the element of diversity and caste. Both these particular states, we forget, there is a narrative that is playing out, while it might be a little subliminal right now, but there is an element of Hindutva consolidation that is always at play in both these particular states. And remember, there is a for the lack of a better word, a war raging right now. Israel-Palestine, that issue will form a subtext when you actually see the BJP hitting the ground. Remember, these were two states where there has been already a modicum of campaigning by the Prime Minister, and he has touched upon the Congress's propensity to appease. So again, this Kamandal card will be played, and the test will be whether Mandal remains relevant today, or will the BJP be able to sort of weave together a larger narrative under Kamandal? Let's see.
Let's see how this plays out, because this is also the first election that's happening after this whole controversy around the Sanatan Dharm, the comments that were made by Udaynidhi Stalin, who is, of course, DMK is a big Congress ally. So whether that will invite a backlash in these North Indian states, that is something we'll have to wait and watch. But I want to bring you up to speed with a graphic, and we bring this up every state election. It's called the Saffron footprint across India. So when in 2014, when Mr. Modi came to power in May of 2014, this is what the saffron footprint looked like. The BJP was in power only in 7 states, largely North Indian states, Rajasthan, Gujarat, of course, in alliance in Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, and of course, the 7 states that the BJP was in power in 2014, just before Mr. Modi came to power. Now, in October of 2023, the BJP is in power in more than double those states. It's in power in 16 out of the 28 states. The BJP is in power in more than half of India. And it's not just the Hindi heartland. As you see, the entire Northeast is made up of NEDA parties, or the Northeast Democratic Alliance parties. All the states there have some ally or the other of the BJP. But where it is lacking for the BJP is really in eastern India, Bengal, Odisha, Bihar. Of course, the BJP was in power in alliance with Nitish until he changed sides. And a big sort of problem area or catchment area, depending on how you want to look at it, is the south. The BJP was in power in Karnataka. It lost Karnataka. It's not in power either on its own or in alliance in any of the 5 southern states. So the BJP, while it consolidates its presence in northern India, opens up new frontiers in the northeast, the east and the south still remain sort of fortresses, if you will, that the BJP has still not been able to breach. The next challenge is A, retain Madhya Pradesh, because remember, they've been in power in Madhya Pradesh since 2003, for the last 20 years. Win back Rajasthan. Will it continue to have that seesaw? You know, every 5 years there's a change of government between Congress and BJP. And win back Chhattisgarh, because remember, Baghel won by a stupendous majority last time around. He had a 2/3 majority. If it comes down, how much can they reduce it by? And again, in Chhattisgarh, they've not projected a chief ministerial face, even though Raman Singh is a multi-term chief minister. And of course, increase its hold, or let's say its hope to get a hold in the southern states. That is something that the BJP will be keenly watching out, particularly from the point of view of the Lok Sabha elections. So let me go across to our guests who are also joining us. Pallavi Ghosh is also joining us. She tracks the Congress Party and the India Alliance. R. Rajagopalan, senior journalist, is there on the broadcast this morning, and Sanjeev Srivastav is also joining us. But Pallavi, as Rahul was saying a moment ago, this is the first big election after the formation of the India Alliance. And even though, you know, it's not like a state like Maharashtra or a state like Tamil Nadu where there are multiple alliance partners who sort of pool their strengths together, in these states, it's by and large a straight fight, BJP versus Congress. And for the Congress Party, this is hugely important, because not only does this set the tone for 2024, it also sets the tone, if you will, for primacy of the Congress Party within the India Alliance. Today,
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
Yeah, absolutely, Zaka. And this is a point which Congress behind the closed doors has always been making to the not so happy to be with Congress kind of parties like the TMC and the Aam Aadmi Party, that like the BJP, we are the only party which has a national footprint. And therefore, we should be given that importance. You don't fight elections one-on-one with the BJP in most of the states like we do. So if you are going to compromise our position, it's actually going to have an impact on the India Front Alliance, which is is why for the Congress party, winning in states like Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh will become extremely critical. Now, if for argument's sake, the Congress wins in at least two of them, MP and Chhattisgarh, they're going to go back to the negotiating table and say, look, we told you so. And if you want to contest the 2024 Lok Sabha elections properly, in most of the states, we are going to be on a straight fight. And whenever we are on a straight fight without any outside interference from our inside partners like AAP and TMC, we actually do well. Karnataka example has often been given, that of Himachal, where AAP was nowhere in the scenes. So I think if the Congress does well, they're going to make two important points very quickly. One, we should definitely get the lion's share, or at least the predominant share as far as the seats are concerned. And second, do leave us alone in many of the states where you're going to go out and campaign. They'll request AAP and TMC, AAP more so, because they're the ones who venture out more, that don't go out and campaign in areas where we are going to be campaigning against the BJP, because you're going to compromise the entire idea of India Front. So today, when the Congress is working at the working committee meeting, that's also going to be one of the main points. Caste census, issues where we take on the BJP, our national footprint, and also the fact that we are going to flex our muscles within the India Front. Very quickly, Zaka, it's not a coincidence that the seat sharing talks have not yet begun in the India Front. I think they're going to be waiting and watching the situation which is being played out in these states.
Yep, I think that's a fair point. And you also, forgot to add Telangana, where up until 3 months ago, it seemed like a straight fight between the TRS, the BRS and the BJP. But now it could slightly get triangular, if not a direct fight between the Congress and the BRS. So that will be an important state to watch out for as well for the Congress party. Before I go to Mr. Rajagopalan and Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav, I just want to show you the vote share and seat share comparisons, because it's very interesting. We just pointed out a moment ago on the magic wall how in Madhya Pradesh, for example, the BJP, despite getting a higher vote share, albeit by about 0.13%, it ended up with fewer seats. So this is what it is looking like over the last many elections. I'm going to start with Madhya Pradesh, the vote matrix for the BJP. Remember, the BJP has been in power in Madhya Pradesh since 2003. For a brief interval in 2018, of course, Shivraj Singh Chauhan lost power, only for him to come back. So it has basically started off at 38%. That was in the 2008 election. And you can see consistently it's gone up to 55%. The 2014 Lok Sabha election was a high, after which it came down to 41. That was a big drop. And then again a high in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. So there is a bit of a differential, about 10% or so between Lok Sabha and Assembly, which is a critical factor in a heartland state like Madhya Pradesh. So it, like I said, went from 38 to 55 in the 2014 Lok Sabha, fell down to 41, and then went up again to 58 in the 2019 Lok Sabha. The Congress's vote share has been 32 and then 40 in the 2019 race, and then it was sort of steady around that 36-37% range till the 2018 Assembly election, where again it had 41%. Just a shade under the BJP's vote share, but it ended up with more seats. It had 114 and the BJP had 109. But the 2019 Lok Sabha, there was a massive 20% vote share difference between the BJP and the Congress. Now, that does show that the Modi factor accounts for at least 10%. On the conservative side, at least 10% difference in vote share when Mr. Modi is on the ticket. That's why in the parliamentary elections, there's a substantial gap in vote share between the BJP and the Congress. Rajasthan, it's a similar story. Again, in 2008, the BJP had 34%, and then in the 2019 Lok Sabha, it was only 32%. It went up to a high of 56%. In Mr. Modi's first election, the first Lok Sabha election. It fell for the 2018 Vidhan Sabha elections. The BJP lost that election. It went down to 73 seats. And then again, there was a high. Less than 6 months after that, in the Lok Sabha of 2019, it went up to almost 60%. That is a massive vote share. The BJP won every single seat in the Lok Sabha in Rajasthan in 2019. So close to 60% vote share for the BJP there. If you look at the Congress's trajectory, the Congress had 34% in 2008, and then it went up to, 37%, then it went up to 54%, and ever since it has come down and it has been in the 30s range. Even when it won power in the 2018 Vidhan Sabha election, it had lesser vote share than the BJP, and it managed to scrape through. It had 100 seats, the BJP had 73. But again, look at the difference in the 2019 Lok Sabha. There's a massive 20% plus vote share difference between the BJP and the Congress. In Chhattisgarh, again, you can see the difference between Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha. The BJP started off with a 40% vote share in 2008. It's been in that 40s range. It went up to a high of 50% in 2014, fell down to 33. Remember, the BJP was reduced to just 14 or 15 seats in Chhattisgarh in the 2018 Vidhan Sabha election, so it came down to 33%, and then again a high of 57. On the corollary, the Congress started off with 39%, was in that same bracket, 38, 39%, and has been more or less there. It's not changed dramatically, except for, of course, in the 2018 Vidhan Sabha election when the Congress won, and that too with a massive two-thirds majority. But look at the difference. The difference in vote share was just about 10% or so, whereas in the Lok Sabha, where the BJP swept 10 out of 11 seats, they had 57% vote share and the Congress had only 42%. So the point being that as much as we say that this is the semi-final before the big final, these two elections are very, very contrasting in nature. The BJP lost all three heartland states in 2018 and they won big in all of these three states in the 2019 Lok Sabha. So, should we extrapolate what is going to happen in the winter of 2023 to the summer of 2024? We'll put that to R. Rajagopalan and to Sanjeev Srivastav. Rahul Shivshankar is here in our studios as well. Quick break. We'll see you in just a minute. Stick around. Don't go anywhere.
Looking here, watching from a distance, sitting here in India, we can say it is 10x of 2611. What options are available with Israel right now? The counteroffensive is already launched. Operation Iron Swords is going on. There have been airstrikes in Gaza Strip. Perhaps, and we have been told in next 24 hours, 28 to 48 hours, we can expect something big. So what options Israel has now when it comes to counter or perhaps to defend its own people, its own territory? What options are there?
I have to say one very important thing. We have been used, unfortunately, to short rounds of hostilities with Hamas in the past 15 to 20 years. Usually they would end within 2-3 days with mediation from the Egyptians or maybe other parties, and then some arrangements would be made, and then we would have quiet until the next time. This time is different. This time is different because of the magnitude of the attack, because of the cruelty, the beastly way in which they massacred, the October massacre, I would call it. The situation is different, and the response by Israel will be different. I don't know if it will take 24 hours, it might take more, but the response this time would be fierce and forceful, and it will show Hamas, the rulers of the Gaza Strip, I can say, that with Israel you don't play games, and you don't you should not play with Israel. Israel will have its response. First of all, regaining control in those areas where we still don't have control. I have to say that when this operation started, there were more than 20 localities which the terrorists got control of for hours. Now there are 2 or 3 places left. First to regain control, then to make the terrorists pay a heavy price to what they did, and then we look strategically at the long term. We look also at other potential fronts. You know that in the same way that we have Hamas in Gaza, we have our enemies, again, terrorist organization in Lebanon, both of them, by the way, financed and trained and encouraged by a state member of the United Nations called Iran. And we have to be careful also regarding the potential threat from Iran.
Now, as Israel has launched its massive counteroffensive against the Hamas militants, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say regarding the attack.
את כל המקומות שהחמאס נערך בהם, של עיר הרשע הזאת, כל המקומות שהחמאס מסתתר בהם, פועל מתוכם, נהפוך אותם לאיי חורבות. אני אומר לתושבי עזה, צאו משם עכשיו, כי אנחנו נפעל בכל מקום ובכל העוצמה. בשעה זו מתארים כוחות צה"ל את אחרוני היישובים ממחבלים. הם עוברים יישוב יישוב, בית בית, ומחזירים את השליטה לידינו. אני שולח חיבוק ותנחומים מעומק הלב למשפחות השכולות שיקיריהן נרצחו היום בדם קר ובאכזריות אין קץ.
Well, CNN News 18's Siddhant Mishra spoke exclusively to Israeli ambassador to India till 2018, Daniel Carman, about the Hamas attack on Israel. He discussed Israel's game plan next and the situation on the ground right now. Listen in to what the conversation was.
World is expecting perhaps something big is going to happen in next 24 hours. How do you read these developments?
Well, first of all, we have to state the obvious. We are in a state of war.
Okay.
Since yesterday, when Hamas terrorist organization attacked our country. A terrorist organization that during those years has gained strength, has become an army, has become a political ruler of the Gaza Strip, and yesterday has surpassed.
All right, we're getting a piece of breaking news just ahead of that press conference by the Chief Election Commissioner on dates. It's a scoop on the BJP strategy for Chhattisgarh, arguably the hardest state for the BJP in this current round of elections. We're learning from Payal Mehta that every seat will be covered. The party has deployed more than 36 leaders in the 32 districts of the state. The leaders are already on the ground. The focus of the party is going to be on carpet bombing, and the poll will be fought not as, Bhupesh Baghel versus who. They're not going to declare a chief ministerial face. The only face to be projected is that of Prime Minister Modi, who's expected to cover the entire state. So let me go across to Payal. What gives hope to the BJP that a state that the Congress won and where, there seems to be a relatively strong incumbent chief minister in Mr. Baghel, a state that they won by 2/3 majority, what gives the BJP confidence that they can take it back from the Congress?
The BJP, Zaka, the BJP feels that they're the underdogs over here. The whole focus of the campaign of the Congress has been around Chhattisgarh CM Bhupesh Baghel, but that is what the BJP is going to do. The BJP is going to say that they're going to focus seat on seat. They don't want to make it a battle of BJP versus Bhupesh Baghel. That's a very difficult battle to fight. But corruption has been the key that the BJP will focus on. The fact remains that the party has been able to release a booklet which Amit Shah released a couple of months ago, where they spoke about the corruption of the government, the inaction of the government, and that's one of the reasons. You have 35 leaders who are going to be deployed across the state. There are various tribal leaders, including Arjun Munda, who is a tribal leader himself. Raghuvar Das, again, a Jharkhand, former chief minister, he's going to be in the state. So several such leaders are going to be deployed. And it's a very interesting combination over there, Zaka. We speak about the strategy of Prime Minister Narendra Modi being the biggest star campaigner for the BJP. Of course, Chhattisgarh is the responsibility for Amit Shah, another Gujarati. But there is a Gujarat connection in Chhattisgarh as well. Mansukh Bhai Mandavia, a long-time aide and a close aide of the Prime Minister, he's deployed there as the election in charge. And co-in charge is Mr. Om Mathur. Mr. Om Mathur has also been associated with the Prime Minister from his very early days and knows his style of functioning very, very well. So that's the combination that they're hoping that they will be able to deliver results. I've been speaking to these leaders and they've been saying that they're extremely confident because their leaders whose seats have been declared have hit the ground running. They've run a very low-profile campaign. They've gone door to door. They've gone ahead and met people and told them what the government and the centre has been able to do and what they promised to do for the people of the state as well. So we're expecting a big announcement also, in terms of something for the farmers, etc., as far as Chhattisgarh is concerned, because there's been enough work which has been done by the Modi government as far as the welfare of tribals is concerned.
All right, fine.
But they will not target, they will target Bhupesh Baghel, saying that he's focused too much on himself and not on the government.
Okay, so let me now bring you up to speed with the state of Rajasthan, and Rahul's here so I can get his thoughts as well about the personalities. And Rajasthan is full of colorful personalities, from both sides, from the Congress as well as the BJP. Let's start with Sachin Pilot, because the Pilot factor is open rebellion between Mr. Gehlot and Mr. Pilot. They seem to have sort of papered that over in the last few months or so. Pilot is relevant in about 16 seats. Remember, he comes from the Gujar community, and they have this ongoing fight. The Jats versus the Gujars is a traditional fault line, not just in Rajasthan, but in other Hindi-speaking states as well. In 16 of those seats where the Gujars are dominant, the Congress won 11 last time, and a pretty decent vote share difference as well. The BJP had only 5. The Chief Minister, Mr. Gehlot, he of course comes from the Mali community. They are spread across the state. This is Jodhpur, where the Chief Minister, he contests from Sardarpura, which is right on the outskirts of Jodhpur. But you see, the Mali community is spread across the state, but they're not dominant in any particular region or dominant in any particular part of the state. They have presence across various constituencies, across the southern part, here in the north as well. But you look at the difference. The BJP, in an election which it lost in 2018, the BJP had more seats than the Congress in the seats where the Mali community plays the swing role. And then, of course, there is Vasundhara Raje factor. Remember, they have not declared Vasundhara Raje as the chief ministerial face, and that is a bit of a pain point with her and her supporters. Last time when the Congress won the state, it had 21 out of the 38 seats where the Rajput factor, the Raje factor is important. The BJP had only 8. In fact, there were others, independent, smaller parties, who had more number of seats than the BJP. They had 9 seats as opposed to the BJP's 8. But in the election 5 years prior to that, in 2013, when Vasundhara won, look at that, all 38 seats, and this is across regions, largely in the central part of Rajasthan, but some in the north as well, all those 38 seats were swept by the BJP. So the Rajput factor is an important one in Rajasthan, but you want to weigh in on the personalities and whether, you know, the personalities, their egos have been managed by their respective parties?
Well, that's the question that one has to look at. Zaka, remember, what is Gehlot going for him? And why wasn't he then suddenly removed if Sachin Pilot brought to bear such a forceful, on-the-ground, visible campaign against his own chief minister and his government? You have to factor that in. And the basic question is that Gehlot is able to, because of his humble origins, you've already invoked his caste, he's a grassroots politician that's risen with the party and carries the cadre along. So there's a huge confidence in Gehlot, which comes because of his circumstances, his social circumstances. This is not a calling card that Pilot can actually extract out of his own pocket. And the BJP very cleverly wants to make this a contest between elites and, of course, those that are from the grassroots. And this is why the Congress chooses to stick to Gehlot, because it blunts that very potent card that the Prime Minister invokes constantly about the Congress. The party of elites, it's a kind of an oligarchy of a few families that rule over everybody else.
But the same can be said about Vasundhara Raje as well. I mean,
That's
she's
true.
the Maharani, right?
That is true, and that's why perhaps this time she's not being forcefully projected, because this is where the problem. And of course, the last factor that we constantly sort of not focus on, it's an important factor, is that Gehlot did ride on anti-incumbency.
Yep.
There was a lot of baggage that Raje was carrying. There was a lot of factionalism within the BJP under her. She wasn't being able to, and there was a slogan that was coined about her, which I don't want to constantly repeat, but even the Congress cadre was targeting at her sort of elite habit, her lifestyle, etc., to bring her down a peg or two, pun intended. But the point is that really ate into the BJP, and Gehlot managed to sort of ride on that anti-incumbency. But the fact that we are not focusing on also is that when the BJP has lost in Rajasthan, it hasn't been eviscerated.
Correct.
That happens with the Congress vote quite a bit. Now, has the BJP been able to position itself as the party that can carry the state forward for another 5 years? Has it been able to make an impact with all its electioneering about the governance deficiencies that Mr. Gehlot has exhibited in the last 5 years? That's the question that we really have to focus on.
Sanjeev Srivastava, please come in on this. You know, of all these 3 states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan was thought to be the weakest link as far as the Congress is concerned because of the infighting. Mr. Gehlot and Mr. Pilot couldn't see eye to eye. They kind of papered over some of those cracks in the last few weeks. But will that be good enough The prevailing sense also seems to be A, there is history, the history of the last 25 years where the state has alternated between the BJP and the Congress. So that will be a tough one to buck. But more than that, has the Congress under Mr. Gehlot given a governance model which a reasonable number of people in the state can then say, okay, this is worth voting for again?
So, Zaka, if I pick up from your last point, I think right now Mr. Gehlot is running a government which, in terms of social welfare measures, perhaps is number one in the Hindi heartland, at least. So every section of the society, population, farmers, students, elderly, widows, scholarships. So every section is getting something, plus the gas cylinder in 500 rupees, plus an insurance scheme, health insurance scheme. So in terms of welfare state, he has his one slogan this time has been कि आप मांगते मांगते थक जाओगे, मैं देते देते नहीं थकूंगा. This was in reference to MLAs and the manner in which he has gone around on a spree of declaring districts. Now, even small towns have become districts, or larger towns have become districts. So 53 districts. Suddenly Rajasthan has nearly 80% more than what it used to have. So that message that every 5-year government will change in the Congress, what Rahul was saying just now, that there is a very interesting difference. When BJP loses, it loses not as badly as the Congress. When Congress loses, Congress is decimated in Rajasthan.
Correct.
The BJP always puts up a fight and then loses with certain amount of grace and dignity in terms of numbers. So Gehlot has at least managed with this his welfare measures backed by a publicity spree which can only be matched by Prime Minister Modi. I think he's number one of all chief minister in terms of publicity spending.
Okay.
Prachar prasar mein. So he has managed to make that perception that they are in the fight.
Okay,
now,
so Sanjeev Srivastava, give me a moment. Let me just put that up for our viewers on the video wall here. So what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats as far as the Congress in Rajasthan is concerned? Remember, they are the incumbent. As Sanjeev was mentioning a moment ago, there is a massive social welfare push. Let's not forget, Mr. Gehlot was the first chief minister in the country to introduce LPG cylinders at 500. Now, the BJP is matching that up with Ujjwala at 600. A united bloc to try and challenge the rival BJP. Right now, over the last 3 months or so, they've managed to paper over the cracks between the pilot versus Ashok Gehlot fight. But it is there. It is very much there. There was open rebellion by Mr. Pilot. It all began with this understanding that Mr. Gehlot will be moved to Delhi. He'll be asked to contest the Congress president elections. He didn't want to do that. There were about 90 odd of his MLAs who had openly revolted. The High Command had no choice. They had to bring in a compromise candidate like Mr. Kharge. So that's where it really started. But let's also move on to what possible weaknesses are. There is a poor track record when it comes to women's safety. And we've seen numerous cases of atrocities against women in Rajasthan. There's also what happened in Udaipur with the beheading of Kanhaiya Lal. We don't know what kind of impact subliminally that is going to have on the electorate. And then, of course, opportunities and threats. Bharat Jodo. Bharat Jodo played a key role in Karnataka. It also could possibly play a role in Rajasthan. Mr. Gandhi did cover quite a few parts of Rajasthan in the first leg of his Bharat Jodo. The threat, of course, is this, that since 1998, for the last 25 years, much like Kerala used to be and Tamil Nadu used to be at one point of time, it's always alternated governments between the BJP and the Congress. Can Mr. Gehlot buck that trend? For the BJP, the biggest strength, of course, is the Modi factor. No doubt about it. And all the more so now because you're not projecting any other local face. So the only projection is that of Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is the biggest factor for the BJP in Rajasthan, his mass appeal and his popularity. Welfare schemes by the centre. Now, you can call this revenues, freebies, call it what you want, but there is a serious sort of fight that is on between central welfare schemes and state welfare schemes as to who is taking care of the poor masses better than the other. Weaknesses, of course, they have not projected any chief ministerial face, neither Vasundhara Raje, nor Shekhawat, nor Meghwal, many of whom may be asked to contest this time around is what we are being told. The weaknesses, price rise and unemployment. This, I guess, is true across the country as much as it is in Rajasthan, but price rise and unemployment are direct it'll have a direct bearing on the record of the central government. And the opportunity, of course, is that history is on the BJP's side. If alternating patterns continue, then this time it would be the BJP's chance to form a government. Let me get a quick word in from Mr. Rajagopalan. The thread, of course, is this factional feud, but we'll get to that once the elections are done with and once, if the BJP is in a position to form government. But Mr. Rajagopalan, you know, this whole welfare scheme versus welfare scheme. Mr. Gehlot starts cylinders at 500 rupees. Today, Ujjwala is available at 600 rupees. In a way, you know, when the framing is revdis and freebies and so on, everybody is doing it. Mr. Gehlot is doing it in Madhya Pradesh. Mr. Chauhan, he is banking big time on this Ladli Behna scheme, which is again 1,000 rupees or 1,500 rupees. The Congress is again introducing guarantees, including 1,500 rupees to all women. So, you know, it might be a race down the gutter fiscally and economically. It may not make sense, but every party is doing it, Revdi or no Revdi.
Jaga, first of all, I want to congratulate you and thumbs up to the studio. The best studio, and I give a clap.
Thank you.
The reason being, you have done extremely well the graphics, especially Rahul Shivashankar's, narration. Apart from that, now I come to the crux of the problem. Sanjeev has elaborated it very well. I go a little step ahead of that. My understanding of Rajasthan, though I am not expert like Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava, my understanding is Narendra Modi's stall popularity, and quietly they have introduced Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. So we have to watch Gajendra Singh Shekhawat in Rajasthan politics. Why BJP is slowly projecting him? Are they going to take away one Scindia? Because Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan have a Scindia connection. In Rajasthan, if Vasundhara is removed, in Madhya Pradesh, Jyotiraditya will be projected. So therefore, new faces for 2024, they are now making efforts in the assembly elections because half of them have been reduced. So at least some 12 MPs have been given seats for the MLA. That shows open for 2024. Second important aspect, you all discussed about, Ashok Gehlot, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. The Madhya Pradesh picked up with Dhirendra Vimachari, the type of, that Swamiji, who is a very young, preacher of Hinduism.
Dhirendra Shastri, that's his name. Yeah.
Dhirendra Shastri. But the Sanatana Dharma of Udayinidhi smashed that. And a telephone call from 10 Chamber to Anna Arivalayam DMK headquarters goes slow on that. So these are all certain factors. On the top of it, you or Rahul did not mention about Ram Mandir. It started from today, December 24th, January 24th, okay. Run up to that, Ram Mandir. Plus, final point, Jaka, the winter session of Parliament is also being advanced as a special session. Will winter session be held? Because during campaign period, the Parliament may not be held or may be held, we do not know.
Correct. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. Generally, they don't have the sessions of the House when campaigning is going on, but we'll see if an exception is made this time around. I'm going to take a quick break. In less than 5 minutes, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, his two Election Commissioner colleagues, they'll be joining hands and announcing the dates for the 5 state assembly elections. We're calling this the big semi-final before, of course, the big final of 2024, setting the stage. The winter of 2023 sets the stage for the summer of 2024. Quick break. We're back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
I would say unprecedented way. On the one hand, launch thousands of rockets, hundreds of terrorists on vehicles, walking from the air, from the sea in a very planned, attacked, infiltrated the territory of Israel, entered into villages, towns, and localities, actually attacked civilians, not soldiers, attacked civilians, went into houses, massacred the elderly, children, toddlers, women, men, people who were in a festival a couple of kilometers away, thousands of people in the middle of a festival. We had yesterday our 26/11. Yesterday, 26/11, the Israeli surprise, shock, rage, anger, but at war, like in a war, we are going to respond and we are going to win this war. No doubts about it.
Okay. Sir, looking here, watching from a distance, sitting here in India, we can say it is 10x of 26/11. What options are available with Israel right now? The counteroffensive is already launched. Operation Iron Swords is going on. There have been airstrikes in Gaza Strip. Perhaps, and we have been told in next 24 hours, 28 to 48 hours, we can expect something big. So what options Israel has now when it comes to counter or perhaps to defend its own people, its own territory? What options are there?
I have to say one very important thing. We have been used, unfortunately, to short rounds of hostilities with Hamas in the past 15 to 20 years. Usually they would end within 2-3 days with mediation from the Egyptians or maybe other parties, and then some arrangements would be made, and then we would have quiet until the next time. This time is different. This time is different because of the magnitude of the attack, because of the cruelty, the beastly way in which they massacred, the October massacre, I would call it. The situation is different, and the response by Israel will be different. I don't know if it will take 24 hours, it might take more, but the response this time would be fierce and forceful, and it will show Hamas, the rulers of the Gaza Strip, I can say, that with Israel you don't play games, and you don't you should not play with Israel. Israel will have its response. First of all, regaining control in those areas where we still don't have control. I have to say that when this operation started, there were more than 20 localities which the terrorists got control of for hours. Now there are 2 or 3 places left. First to regain control, then to make the terrorists pay a heavy price to what they did. And then we look strategically at the long term. We look also at other potential fronts. You know that in the same way that we have Hamas in Gaza, we have our enemies, again, terrorist organization in Lebanon, both of them, by the way, financed and trained and encouraged by a state member of the United Nations called Iran. And we have to be careful also regarding the potential threat from Iran.
Now, as Israel has launched its massive counteroffensive against the Hamas militants, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say regarding the attack.
את כל המקומות שהחמאס נערך בהם, של עיר הרשע הזאת, כל המקומות שהחמאס
Welcome back to our continuing coverage. In less than a minute from now, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar and his Election Commissioner colleagues will rise up to present the dates for the 5 state assembly elections that are due in the winter of 2023. The Election Commission will be giving you the dates live, and we'll be covering it here on CNN News 18. This is for the 3 heartland states of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Telangana in the south, and of course Mizoram in the northeast. So let's tell you what is at stake for the various political parties, the BJP and the Congress. Remember, this is the semi-final before the big final of 2024. Less than 6 months after these elections, you will have the big general election of 2024. 5 states will set the stage, 3 of them heartland states. It's critical. 679 seats across these 5 states are up for grabs, and particularly in these 3 North Indian states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, it's a direct fight between the BJP and the Congress. And mind you, it's important for the Congress as well because this is the first election after the formation of the India Alliance. So for the Congress to establish its primacy within the India Alliance, it needs to do well in these 3 heartland states. Of course, the impact of this will be felt in 83 Lok Sabha seats. Remember, in 2018, the BJP lost all 3 of these states, and yet in the 2019 Lok Sabha, they won all of these 3 states big time. Will history repeat itself? We'll have to wait and see. Rajasthan is critical because it has a 25-year history, a pattern of repeating governments every 5 years, alternating between the Congress and the BJP. Will that change this time around? Madhya Pradesh, the biggest state that's going to polls this time around, again, 18 years. Shivraj Singh Chauhan has been a perennial presence in that state. This time around, the BJP has not declared him as the chief ministerial candidate. Will anti-incumbency get the better of him? In Telangana, again, it is an anti-incumbency election because the BRS has been in power for the last 2 terms, 10 years now, so double anti-incumbency. Will they be able to overcome that? Will it be a triangular fight between the BRS, the BJP and the Congress, or will it by and large be a straight fight between the Congress and the BRS? And of course, Nari Shakti. This is the first election since the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill, and even though it doesn't come into effect in this election cycle or the next one thing is very, very clear. Both political parties, Congress and BJP, are going all out to woo the woman vote, whether it is through Ujjwala and cheap gas cylinders, whether it is through free bus tickets, whether it is straight up doles, 1,500 rupees in Ladli Behna for all the women of the state. All of this, how much will it help turn up the woman vote, and which way will she vote? That's going to be a big question. So I believe live pictures are now coming from the press conference. Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, flanked by his colleagues. Let's go straight to that press conference where we will get the dates of the winter elections to Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, and of course, Telangana.
I would like to formally welcome you to this press conference by the Election Commission on forthcoming assembly polls to the 5 states of Mizoram, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Telangana. I have with me the Honorable Chief Election Commissioner Shri Rajiv Kumar ji, the Honorable Election Commissioner Shri Anup Chandra Pandey ji, and the Honorable Election Commissioner Shri Arun Goyal ji. We also have with us today senior officials from the ECI headquarters. I am B. Narayanan, DG Media for the Commission. The format is as follows. There will be opening remarks by the CEC along with presentation. We will share the PDF copy of the presentation with all of you after the event is over. Following this, there will be a brief question and answer session. When you want to ask a question, raise your hand. Wait for the chance to be called to put your question. I will direct the micer to come to you. When it's your turn, introduce yourself and your organization and then ask your questions. Please keep your mobiles on silent mode. Sir, I request you to deliver your opening remarks.
My colleague, Honorable Election Commissioner Shri Anup Chandra Pandey ji on my right side and Shri Arun Goyal ji on my left, ECI officials and friends from media in such a large number. Very good morning to you. I hope you had a good weekend. You were all worried that the conference may happen during weekend. So I hope you had a good weekend. And it's a good starting on Monday. Friends, as you are aware, we have gathered here today to declare the schedule for the elections to the legislative assemblies of Mizoram, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Telangana. And we have gathered here today after a significant hiatus of 6 months. We met last. And as we stand on the cusp of elections in these states, it is worth noting that these polls hold a unique significance, not only for the residents of these states, but also for the nation. We will now, after this, meet in this form for the 24 elections. In the span of 40 days, the Commission has visited 5 states, all the 5 states, and held very detailed discussions with the political parties there, with the enforcement agencies of the central government and the state government. For example, all across the spectrum, to just tell you, income tax, excise, DRI, narcotics, coastal guards, state police, banks, RBI, civil aviation, everyone, whosoever is involved in some form of enforcement for the elections, RPF, Railway Protection Force, GRP, so everyone. So what transpired, what did they tell us, and what did we told them, all that I will brief you. We met the political parties representatives और उनके भी जितने सुझाव, जितने फीडबैक थे वो हम सब लोगों ने लिए. उसके बारे में भी मैं थोड़ा आपको बताऊंगा. I'll use this opportunity to brief you about what had happened during these last 6 months when we have started the preparation for the elections. मुझे मालूम है कि आप लोग शेड्यूल जानने के लिए इच्छुक हैं ज़्यादा, लेकिन इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को हम यूज़ करेंगे आपको ये बताने के लिए कि कितनी मेहनत इन चुनावों को कराने के लिए होती है. So friends, just to give you an overview, the Mizoram Assembly's term is on 17th December 23, then all of the others in the latest by 16th of January 24. And there are total assembly constituencies, number is 679 if you total up assembly constituencies of Mizoram, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Telangana. तो जो ये 679 असेंबली कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज हैं वो पूरी कंट्री की 4200 लगभग लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज का 1/6 है. और इसी प्रकार से जो इनके इलेक्टर्स हैं जो 16.14 करोड़ हैं कंबाइंडली, वो भी लगभग 95 करोड़ वोटर्स के 1/6 हैं. सो द एंटायर कंट्री बाय दैट स्टैंडर्ड वुड बी गोइंग टू पोल्स in almost in the 1/6 of the country's spread of the voters and the assembly constituencies. The general overview, if we were to give you, the Mizoram has 8.52 lakh voters, Chhattisgarh 2.03, Madhya Pradesh 5.6, Rajasthan 5.2, Telangana 3.17, and total voters in these states would be totaling to 8.2 crore male and 7.8 crore female voters. Very interesting fact is that first time voters in these states would be 60.2 lakhs. I would elaborate on this point little later when I come to that. But this emphasis during the special summary revision in these states has been such that we have concentrated on the enrollment of the young voters, PWD voters, 80+ voters, centenarian voters, and also the improving the election gender ratio for these states. अगर आप देखेंगे तो जो PWD हैं उसके total voters की संख्या 17.34 lakhs है, which is who are also entitled to vote from the comfort of their home if they are not able to come to the polling station. Similarly, 80+ 24.7 and centenarian voters 32,410. All these three categories को पहली बार असेंबली इलेक्शंस में अपने घर से वोट की सुविधा प्राप्त होगी. और फ्रेंड्स, द लास्ट कॉलम अगर आप देखेंगे इलेक्टर जेंडर रेशियो, तो दो स्टेट में ये जेंडर रेशियो ज़्यादा फेवरेबल है विमेन का. इट इज़ 1063 and 1012, which is a very happy state. In other states also, it has improved because of the special efforts undertaking during the SSR. और इस SSR की वजह से इन सब में भी ये electoral ratio काफ़ी बड़ा है. Telangana is also very high, 9998, and so there is improvement even in the Rajasthan. Now, if you look at the inclusive electoral roll, we are emphasizing a lot. Let me repeat. जो इलेक्ट्रल रोल है वो पूरी तरीके से प्योर हो, वो पूरी तरीके से हेल्दी हो, इसके ऊपर में बहुत एम्फेसिस है. और ये भी मैं आपको अभी बताऊंगा कि जो एसएसआर पूरी कंट्री का है वो भी शुरू होने वाला है. सो जस्ट टू से दैट वुमेन वोटर्स, यंग वोटर्स, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, persons with disabilities, senior citizens, transgenders, सबके ऊपर में इस एसएसआर में जो इन 5 स्टेट्स में हुआ विशेष अभियान चलाया गया ताकि पूरा का पूरा जो इलेक्ट्रल रूल है उसमें पहले सबको शामिल करें और फिर सबको हम वोटर पोलिंग स्टेशन पे लेके आएं. So this is the effort. How do we first enter them into the roll and then bring them to the poll? So from roll to poll is the emphasis by which we are all working. So now, friends, very interesting and a special effort which the Commission is undertaking. ये जो particularly vulnerable tribal groups हैं पूरी country में 75 ऐसी communities हैं और Commission ने ये बीड़ा उठाया है कि हम इनको सबको जो last पंक्ति में हैं they are almost the lowest in the human development indices in the entire country in the amongst the voters. So we will enroll them fully. And as a happy reporting to you, in these 4 states, we have 12 PVTGs and they have been enrolled 100%. तो ये हमें बड़ी खुशी का विषय है कि 100% एनरोल हुई हैं और हम आपको ये भी दिखाएंगे कि इनको किस प्रकार से हम पोलिंग स्टेशंस में लाने की कोशिश करेंगे। अगर यूथ की बात करें तो 60 लाख जो यूथ हैं वो ऐसे हैं जो फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर्स होंगे 18 to 19 years in these 5 states. And as you are all aware, there was an amendment for qualifying dates to be changed to 4 dates instead of the 1st January of the every year. So उसकी वजह से 15.39 lakh voters are such who are completing their 18th year after the 1st January 2023. And because of this amendment, 15.3 lakh voters would be able to exercise their franchise in this election. This is the positive effect and of that amendment which we brought. And in line of that, we are also taking up to showcase that these 2,900 plus polling stations would be managed by our youngest employees so that we also focus on and tackle the youth apathy which we keep encountering in states after states. Similarly, if we come to women, as I mentioned earlier, women का जो gender ratio है वो भी लगातार improve हो रहा है. So Chhattisgarh has improved from 995 to 1012. For Madhya Pradesh from 917 to a jump of 945. Mizoram again from 1051 to 1063 gender ratio. And Rajasthan and also Telangana from 982 to 998. And net addition of the female electors, which is also a very happy state for us, is 23.6 lakhs. तो अब एफर्ट ये है कि उनको पहले हमने पोल में जोड़ दिया और अब हम उनको पोलिंग स्टेशंस पर लेके आए by providing them all kinds of facilities which are possible. How do we do that? So if you look at the inclusive and pure nature of the electoral roll since the efforts we are making after the second SSR which happened in these 5 going states, 57.89 lakhs is the total addition, and this happened. There is an house-to-house survey which is happening which happened in these states and which is also happening in the entire country in a run-up to the SSR for the entire country. Deletions were 20.59 lakhs and most importantly the modifications. किसी का एड्रेस गलत है, किसी का फोटो ठीक नहीं है, किसी का फोन नंबर डाला हुआ नहीं है, सबके लिए 22.35 लाख मॉडिफिकेशंस और 18 to 19 एज ग्रुप में 18.37 लाख एडिशंस. ये सभी स्लाइड्स की कॉपी आपको साइड बाय साइड मिल रही होगी. These are being put on the media's website and all. So you don't have to repeat this. I am sure you are getting it side by side and it will be posted also on our website immediately. Next. Before coming to the overview of polling stations, friends, through you, let me tell everybody, all voters in the country, that the general SSR है, summary revision for the year 24 would start from 17/10/23. Draft rolls will be published on 17/10/23. तो मेरे सभी वोटर्स से आपके माध्यम से अनुरोध है कि अपना अपना नाम देखें, अपना अपना पोलिंग स्टेशन देखें. कोई भी नाम किसी को ऐड कराना है या हमारे यंग वोटर्स को तो ऐड कराएं, महिलाओं को जिसको भी ऐड कराना है ऐड कराएं उसमें. किसी को चेंज करना है, फोटो चेंज करनी है, मोबाइल नंबर लिखना है तो लिखाएं. घर घर में हाउस टू हाउस सर्वे would be undertaken by BLOs from 17/10/23 to 30/11/23, यानी 17 अक्टूबर 23 से 30 नवंबर 23 तक पूरी कंट्री में किसी को भी वोटर लिस्ट से संबंधित कोई भी एडिशन कराना है, डिलीशन कराना है, कोई भी नाम में मॉडिफिकेशन कराना है, एवरीबडी इज वेलकम टू डू दिस either through BLO or through the voter helpline BHA application, you can directly do this. So I would use through you, I would appeal through you to everybody to kindly make these changes. Friends, now coming to the polling stations, there would be 1.77 lakh polling stations in these 5 states, and of which 1.01 would have webcasting facility. We have prescribed 50% webcasting, and with a liberty to the states on the basis of vulnerabilities to increase it on their own. So this would be close to 1.01 lakh. Then all this would be monitored through the control rooms, and the number of women managed polling stations would be, there would be 17,734 polling stations which will be model polling stations. There would be PWD managed polling stations, 621, and women managed would be 8,192, more than one in most of the constituencies. Coming to the assured minimum facilities, every polling station would have toilet, drinking water, ramp, लाइट, हेल्प डेस्क, साइनेज, सभी पोलिंग स्टेशंस पे सुविधा होगी. और प्रयास ये है कि पहले आपको पूरी तरीके से वोटर लिस्ट में शामिल करें. शामिल करने के बाद आपकी जो वोटिंग एक्सपीरियंस है पोलिंग स्टेशन पे, उसको भी और सहज और सुगम बनाएं, और उसको ये भी माध्यम बनाएं कि सोसाइटी में पीडब्ल्यूडीज, ट्रांसजेंडर, वुमेन, ओल्ड एज, सब किसी को सेंसिटिविटी स्पेसिफिकली एक थ्रू दी मीडियम ऑफ द वोटिंग इट गेट्स रिफ्लेक्टेड, and entire we showcase and we put an example before the society that yes, at the polling station when we can do this respect and the separate treatment for them which is their due, why can't we do it elsewhere in the society? So this is our modest effort to bring this fact into the limelight. Coming to the elderly voters, as you know, in all these states also they will have the facility to vote from their home. Form 12D 5 दिन के अंदर वो भर सकते हैं. Similarly, next, ये भी एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है स्लाइड जो आपको दिखाना था. बहुत सी जगहें ऐसी हैं जहां पर हम लोग अंदर जा रहे हैं ताकि हर वोटर के पास पहुंच सकें. अगर आप फर्स्ट स्लाइड देखेंगे, ये फर्स्ट टाइम पोलिंग स्टेशन है. 8 किलोमीटर इससे बचेगा चलना. जगदलपुर, बस्तर, छत्तीसगढ़, दिस इज दोज एरियाज. सिमिलरली इन राजस्थान, दिस इज ऑल्सो न्यू बूथ. तो एक स्पेशल कोशिश है कि जो लोग को कम से कम चलना पड़े. वैसे भी हमारा नियम है कि 2 किलोमीटर के अंदर में हम देंगे, बट जहां पॉसिबल नहीं था वहां भी हम भर रहे हैं. इसी प्रकार से जो हमारे, मैंने आपको बताया था, पर्टिकुलरली वल्नरेबल ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स हैं, उनके लिए भी हम स्पेशल पोलिंग स्टेशंस बना रहे हैं. बफर जोन ऑफ फैन के अंदर में ये पोलिंग स्टेशन होगा, जो कि मांडला एमपी में, जस्ट दी शोकेसिंग. और अगर आप नेक्स्ट वाला देखें, पिपरिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट, नर्मदा एमपी, इसमें 165 kilometers from district headquarters, tribal dominated district. People will go and this is the kind of rivers and all terrain they will cross. This is in Mizoram, 22 non-motorable polling stations. तो ये सिर्फ इसलिए आपको दिखा रहा है कि जो पोलिंग पर्सनल हैं वो कितनी मेहनत से, कितनी दूर में अपना ड्यूटी करने जाते हैं. और 6 महीने की तैयारी सिर्फ इसीलिए है जिससे कि सबको सुविधाएं मिल जाएं. और इसीलिए आई विल लाइक टू अपील थ्रू यू टू ऑल दी वोटर्स ऑफ दीज 5 स्टेट्स कि अगर हमने इतनी मेहनत की है तो आप भी कम से कम वोट देने के लिए जरूर आएं. स्पेशल रिक्वेस्ट टू यूथ, विमेन एंड दी पीपल लिविंग इन अर्बन एरियाज, दोज वेयर वी सी अ लिटिल एपैथी. फ्रेंड्स, आपको पहले भी ये बताया है हमने कि सी विजिल के माध्यम से कोई भी शिकायत कर सकता है किसी भी तरीके की इंड्यूसमेंट की, और जिसके पास हम 100 मिनट में पहुंचेंगे. और इसका प्रयोग में रिसेंटली हेल्ड इलेक्शंस में हमें काफ़ी शिकायतें मिली हैं और इंड्यूसमेंट रोकने में भी मदद मिली है. नो योर कैंडिडेट्स, ये हम हर स्टेट में दिखा चुके हैं कि किसी की भी अगर आपराधिक पृष्ठभूमि है तो उस आपराधिक पृष्ठभूमि वाले कैंडिडेट को अपने बारे में 3 बार न्यूज़पेपर में देना पड़ेगा, टीवी में देना पड़ेगा, और उसकी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को भी आगे बढ़ के ये लिखना पड़ेगा कि उन्होंने ऐसे कैंडिडेट को क्यों चुना, क्या उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में जो आपराधिक पृष्ठभूमि के कैंडिडेट चुने गए हैं उनके अतिरिक्त कोई और उपलब्ध नहीं था. Once they give this information, it is for the voter to decide on the basis of an informed choice as to what he wants to do. Another new initiative we have taken is on the integrated election expenditure monitoring. कुछ समय पहले, और इसके भी बहुत अच्छे रिजल्ट्स हम सोचते हैं हमें मिलेंगे, और ये एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी और ईज ऑफ कंप्लायंस के लिए नया इनिशिएटिव है, जिसमें जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं उनको 31 अक्टूबर तक कंट्रीब्यूशन रिपोर्ट देनी होती है कि उन्हें कहाँ से कितने पैसे मिले, और उसी के बेसिस पे उनको इनकम टैक्स की छूट मिलती है. तो पीछे ये देखने में आया था कि इसके बारे में कुछ सूचनाएं समय पर भी नहीं आती थीं, और कुछ ऐसे केस भी थे जिसमें छूट नहीं वाजिब होने के बाद भी ले ली गई थी. तो इन सभी चीज़ों को भरने के लिए, कंप्लीट करने के लिए नाउ न्यू IT system has been started, and in which the contribution report which is due of every year by 31st October would have to be filled. Similarly, annual audit reports political parties को अब इसी IT tools में डिजिटल मोड में देनी पड़ेंगे, और एक और रिपोर्ट उन्हें देनी होती है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को आफ्टर एवरी इलेक्शन, जिसमें वो रिपोर्ट 30 दिन के अंदर देनी होती है जैसे ही चुनाव खत्म हो, और 75 डेज के अंदर में फाइनल रिपोर्ट, ताकि उस इलेक्शन में कितना खर्चा पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ने किया. तो अब हमारे पास किस कैंडिडेट ने कितना खर्चा किया ये तो होगा, साथ ही साथ पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिस्टम के थ्रू ये भी होगा. दिस विल हेल्प in ease for the political parties to fill up these details online, and would also help us in keeping it at one place and do whatever assessment and analytics is possible in addition to housekeeping. Similarly, जो इंड्यूसमेंट फ्री इलेक्शंस का फोकस चुनाव आयोग और गंभीरता के साथ दे रहा है, उसके लिए भी एक इलेक्शन सीजर मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम इस बार नया शुरू किया जा रहा है इन 5 असेंबली इलेक्शंस में. व्हाट इज दिस? जितनी भी एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज हैं, हम सबको कुछ ना कुछ स्ट्रॉन्ग डायरेक्शंस देते हैं, जो मैं इसके तुरंत बाद आपको दिखाऊंगा बिफोर कमिंग टू द शेड्यूल, कि आप जो भी सीजर कर रहे हैं उसको भरिए. डोंट वर्क इन साइलोज, वर्क इन ए कोऑर्डिनेटेड मैनर, बट इट डजंट गेट कोऑर्डिनेटेड ऑफन. सो दिस सिस्टम विल गिव एन एक्सेस, will onboard all the central and state enforcement agencies during the election period, and they will have to report as soon as any action they take, and if they don't fill up, it will also tell us that for so long no action has been taken by a particular agency. This will also help us in compiling, do the trend analysis, do various kinds of things possible in that particular state. और आप सब अवगत हैं कि हर स्टेट के बहुत सारे स्टेट स्पेसिफिक इंड्यूसमेंट रिलेटेड इश्यूज हैं. अगर मिजोरम में इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर है तो राजस्थान में भी वही इशू है, तो कहीं पर इंटर स्टेट ड्रग्स की प्रॉब्लम है, तो कहीं पर एक्सेस कैश और मनी पावर की प्रॉब्लम है. ऑल दैट विद द हेल्प ऑफ द रिस्पेक्टिव एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज वुड गेट कोलेटेड, एंड वी होप would also get analyzed on a far more real-time basis, so that we can take corrective actions and we can nudge them or we can appreciate them. In this reference, we have got some checkposts established, which is in Mizoram, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Telangana, in all 940 checkposts. These 940 checkposts belong to different enforcement agencies, which is namely, by and large, police, state police, excise, commercial taxes, forest and transport. तो इन सब पांचों की जो पावर्स हैं वो अपने अपने एक्ट के अंदर में अलग अलग पावर्स हैं. Now what we have directed them to do a coordinated effort, pool their resources, establish synergies. पांचों एक साथ मिलके काम करें। और क्या काम करें? इन 940 प्लस चेक पोस्ट पर इंटरस्टेट बॉर्डर्स में दे विल कीप ए very strong watch, and we have almost told them to dry up inflow of cash, liquor and drugs. आपको जब पिछले कर्नाटका इलेक्शन हुआ तो वहाँ जाने के बाद जब हम रिव्यू करके आए तो जो 2018 का सीजर था वो एमसीसी अनाउंस होने तक उससे ज़्यादा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स ने कर दिया था. सो दिस इज ए रिन्यूड फोकस एंड all the checking of cargo movement through non-scheduled chartered flights. This we will issue the guidelines also in greater detail. ऐसी संभावना होती है कि जो पैसेंजर्स के अलावा कार्गो मूवमेंट्स है उसमें भी कुछ ना कुछ इन पोल बाउंड स्टेट्स में कोई मटेरियल इंड्यूसमेंट के थ्रू जा सकता है. कार्गो के पार्सल्स का रेलवे और पोस्टल डिपार्टमेंट के थ्रू भी चेकिंग शुरू हो. Money Power, all these agencies have been strictly asked to keep strict vigil and report in the system which we have stated just before this. Number of observers will be deputed, the general observers, police observers and the expenditure observers, and adequate CAPF. Similarly, the directions again at the polling stations, wherever necessary, we will keep the female staff to check impersonation. We will keep polling parties to move only in the official vehicles, ताकि जैसे पिछले चुनाव में एक आध जगह एक प्राइवेट व्हीकल में बैठ गए थे उस तरह की घटना ना हो. ये भी कहा गया है स्पेसिफिकली कि वोटर इंफॉर्मेशन स्लिप्स को चुनाव से कम ऐसा नहीं कि पहले दिन या दूसरे दिन में ही दें, एक आध हफ्ता पहले कम से कम जरूर बांट दें, so that people can know which booth, which place. Though we request them to check that much in advance on the voter helpline app. नया एक और चेंज इस बार किया गया है because of the experience which we had in certain states. जो पोलिंग पर्सनल हैं उनको पोस्टल बैलेट मिलता था और पोस्टल बैलेट मिलने के बाद वो उसको घर ले जा सकते थे और कभी भी बाई पोस्ट भेज सकते थे till the date of counting. That's the standard practice for the postal ballot. It has been changed now. ये इसलिए कि बहुत सारे पोलिंग पर्सनल्स कुछ स्टेट में कंबाइन होके पोस्ट पोल अपनी कोई न्यूसेंस वैल्यू क्रिएट करते हैं, बिकॉज मार्जिन्स बहुत कम होते हैं, तो अगर 100, 200, 400 लोग भी मिल जाएं तो वो इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकते हैं. सो दिस कुड बी ए पोस्ट पोल opportunity for some to influence the voters or influence the results. Therefore, all of them now onwards in all the elections will vote only at the facilitation center when they come for training. This is before, so this will be physically collected and the postal ballot facility is available in the same sense but at the facilitation center. Next, now coming to friends, after mentioning that we are focusing far more on the inducement-free elections because money power is one thing which we want to restrict, we now will come to the schedule which you are awaiting state by state. And now to start with from the Mizoram, the date of poll will be 7th November. And date of counting would be 3rd, which is common, of course, for all these states. And elections in all these states would be completed by 5th of December. So date of poll is 7th November. Similarly, in case of Chhattisgarh, the elections would be in 2 phases. The date of poll would be 7th November and 17th November. The nominations after Mizoram for the first phase of the Chhattisgarh would happen on 20th, the 13th, and the last date would be 20th. Date of poll being 7th November, and for phase 2, 17th November. In Madhya Pradesh, this coincides with the second phase of Chhattisgarh, and date of poll would be 7th November. So, first Mizoram and the first phase of Chhattisgarh, then second phase of Chhattisgarh and one phase in Madhya Pradesh. Thereafter, Rajasthan where the date of poll will be 23rd November in one phase entirely in Rajasthan. The date of issue of Gazette notification would be 30th October and date of counting for everyone being 3rd of December. Telangana would go last to the poll and date of poll is 30th November with the date of issue of Gazette notification being 3rd of November. And the entire election process would be complete by 5th of December. So this is what is the schedule. And again, I request all of you, through all of you, to all the voters to please come and exercise in the festival of democracy in a true sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those detailed remarks, sir. Just hold on. Just hold on. Floor is open for questions. Don't stand up. Just keep sitting and just put up your hands and I'll direct the micer to come to you.
ये पांचों स्लाइड्स की डेट वैसे अभी आपको भेज दिया होगा.
It's being tweeted to you.
It's being tweeted, but हम दोबारा रिपीट कर दीजिए.
Yeah.
Mizoram. It's visible to all. Next. Next. Madhya Pradesh. Date of poll 17th November. Rajasthan, 23rd November, and Telangana, 30th November. We are doing counting on 3rd of December and finishing the entire election exercise on 5th of December 23.
Yeah, floor is open for questions. Gentleman in the first row. Yeah. Unko mic de dijiye. We'll come to you next. Aapko aayenge second.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर, मोहित दुबे हूँ सर, न्यूज़ नेशन चैनल से। सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि खासतौर पे अगर छत्तीसगढ़ और तेलंगाना के परिप्रेक्ष्य में है, छत्तीसगढ़ में 2 चरणों में आप मतदान करा रहे हैं, नक्सल प्रभावित इलाका है कई। सरकार का दावा है कि नक्सलिज्म तो हमने ख़त्म कर दिया है, लेकिन इस बार भी आप 2 चरणों में मतदान करा रहे हैं। कितनी बड़ी चुनौती जो है नक्सल प्रभावित इलाकों में होगी आपको मतदान कराने के मद्देनज़र, क्योंकि 7 राज्यों की सीमा छत्तीसगढ़ से जुड़ती है जैसा आपने कहा। इसके अलावा तेलंगाना के भीतर पिछले चुनाव में तमाम कैश और लिकर की बरामदगी हुई थी। इस बार कितनी चुनौती तेलंगाना और छत्तीसगढ़ में आपको लेकर होने वाली है?
Yeah, gentleman in the second row there. Yeah, mic is coming to you, just wait. Yeah.
सर मैं श्रीकांत भाटिया हूँ, संवाद सिंधी न्यूज़पेपर और हमारी नज़र न्यूज़ चैनल है। सर ये आचार संहिता के जो उल्लंघन होते हैं इलेक्शंस में, देखा गया है कि कोई एक्शन नहीं होता, सिर्फ आचार संहिता उल्लंघन के केस दर्ज हो जाते हैं। तो सर कोई आपके पास डेटा है कि लास्ट इलेक्शन में आचार संहिता उल्लंघन में क्या लीगल एक्शन लिया गया कैंडिडेट के खिलाफ? और पॉलिटिकल एक छोटा सवाल सर, आपने कहा कि जो कैंडिडेट पैसा खर्च करता है उसका रिकॉर्ड यहाँ रखा जाएगा, क्या वो रिकॉर्ड आम पब्लिक देख सकती है कि किस कैंडिडेट ने इलेक्शन में और किस पार्टी ने कितना पैसा खर्च किया?
Yeah, gentleman in the second row there, in the middle of that row, please.
सर मैं प्रदीप कुमार, टोटल न्यूज़ से। सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि आपने आपराधिक छवि वालों का जो जिक्र किया है और उसको लेकर जो एक्शन की बात की है और जो प्रचार भी करना होगा उनको 3 बार बताना, लेकिन क्या ऐसे आपराधिक छवि वाले उनकी रोकथाम को लेकर इसके अलावा आपके पास क्या उपाय रहेगा, और अगर जानकारी नहीं मिलती तब एक्शन क्या होगा?
Right, so the dates are out. Madhya Pradesh, the biggest state, will go to polls on the 17th of November. Chhattisgarh will go to polls in 2 phases, the first one on the 7th and the second one on the 17th. And then you have Rajasthan, which will go to polls on the 23rd of November, Telangana on the 30th of November, and counting for all states, all 5 states, will happen on the 3rd of December. So a quick press conference that by the Chief Election Commissioner, where he has basically given out the dates. Chhattisgarh is the only state that will go to polls in 2 phases for the 7th and the 17th. And that, of course, is understandable because of the threat of Naxal violence there. Madhya Pradesh, the biggest state, will go to polls in one phase on the 17th of November. Rajasthan, the second biggest, will go to polls again in one phase on the 23rd of November. Telangana will be the last state that will go to polls in this round. That will be on the 30th of November. And on the 3rd of December, we will have the results for all these 5 states. More than 1.7 lakh polling stations across these 5 states. There will be police as well as paramilitary personnel who will be deployed across these 5 states. But the most important thing is the entire electoral process will last roughly about a month or so, from the 7th of November when the first phase of Chhattisgarh happens to the 30th of November when Telangana happens, and then finally on the 3rd of December is when you will get the results. Rahul Shivshankar is here with us in our studios. Aman Sharma is also joining us. So Rahul, I think the dates are slightly different from what it was last time. I think last time, if I'm not mistaken, some of these big states all went to polls in one single phase. Chhattisgarh, of course, was in 2 phases. But this time, they've spread it out. Each of these states has an individual day of its own.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an interesting one because they're all so closely bunched together, these states. And the opposition has always complained that campaigning goes on while electioneering is going on in one particular state. So I expect someone to say something along those lines. But Zaka, of course, at the end of the day, the larger picture, and there are 3 basic questions. Is this really a semi-final for the big one in 2024? Is there a direct correlation between the outcomes here and what could happen? These are Hindi heartland states. And it is as much as a test of appeal for the BJP as it is, of course, a test of relevance for the Congress party. Remember, it's the Congress that needs to prove the most right now in this particular election. It needs to create, in India, there is something called Hawa and Mahal. Both have to come together for the Congress to be taken seriously, not just by the voter itself, but by its alliance partners in the India bloc. So I think the Congress party has the most at stake. I know that people might say, oh, their whataboutery begins again, this, that, the other. But it is a fact. Rahul Gandhi has led a campaign in Karnataka. The Bharat Jodo Yatra did spend a bit of time in Karnataka. It did have an effect on the ground. And the Congress made such a big deal about the election result in Karnataka, saying that the turning point is here. So what is it going to do if on the 3rd things don't quite go the way it hopes? Now, it is the party that is challenging or incumbent in all these 5 states.
Yeah.
Unlike the BJP is not much of a force in the northeast, in Mizoram, and certainly not a force in Telangana. It is emerging as a challenger there, but there is a lot of ground for it to make up there. But here, in these 3 Hindi heartland states, the BJP will expect to do fairly decently. But remember, even in 2019, when the election results did swing away from the BJP, it didn't really have an impact on it in the Lok Sabha elections.
Yeah.
So for the Congress, it is essential that they do well, and not just well in the states like Madhya Pradesh, but really close that gap with the BJP, significant leads, so that its own cadre can feel enthused enough to take that message when the real battle begins in 2024.
All right. So the question that Rahul asked, is there any correlation between this election and the big one 6 months from now, the Lok Sabha election? Certainly in 2018 and 19 there wasn't, because the Congress won all 3 of these heartland states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, and then went on to lose those states in a big way in the Lok Sabha elections, which is less than 6 months away. But Aman Sharma is also joining us. So single phase election in MP 17th, single phase in Rajasthan 23rd, and single phase in Telangana on the 30th, and Chhattisgarh as expected, 2 phases on the 7th and 17th. So are all political parties saying that these are on expected lines, the dates?
Well, I think Zaka, political parties would be feeling the elections are a bit early. I think November 13th is Diwali. So the Election Commission has really factored in the festival season while announcing these states. So we see Chhattisgarh going to polls in one phase on November 7th. But all the major elections, be it the Madhya Pradesh election, the Rajasthan election, the Telangana election, or the second phase of Chhattisgarh election, are post-Diwali. So I think that is the thinking, that post-Diwali, the bigger states go to polls. That said, I think these elections, if you see the 2018 election, Zaka, the vote difference in Madhya Pradesh was just 0.13%. The vote difference in Rajasthan was just 0.5%. That's how close it was. So a slight difference in vote share in either of the state could mean a complete change in fortune for either the BJP or the Congress. In Chhattisgarh, there was a vote difference of over 10% for the Congress, and that is why the big win happened in Chhattisgarh. Obviously, anti-incumbency is one big factor which is weighing on everybody's mind. Is there anti-incumbency against the Congress in Rajasthan? Is there anti-incumbency against Shivraj Singh Chauhan in Madhya Pradesh? The general feeling in Rajasthan, if you speak to the Congress cadre, is that there is anger against the local MLAs, not so much against maybe the chief minister. But BJP thinks it is very, very confident about winning Rajasthan also because of the cyclic nature of its politics. If you come to Madhya Pradesh, the Congress is very confident of coming to power in Madhya Pradesh because it feels that there is strong anti-incumbency against the Shivraj Singh Chauhan government. You know, the first 15 months of this government were anyways of the Kamal Nath government. Then we saw 2 years of COVID. So the BJP MLAs didn't have that much of a time to deliver on the ground, but there is anger against the BJP MLAs, and we could see many, many tickets of the BJP MLAs being cut in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh. Also, the other big factor obviously is the freebies. You know, there is freebies raining both in Rajasthan and in Madhya Pradesh. But Madhya Pradesh is one state where it is just not the Congress which is raining these freebies. It is even Shivraj Singh Chauhan through his Ladli Behna Yojana giving 1,250 rupees to women every month, to 1.3 crore women. The scheme that Mr. Chauhan is describing as a game changer in the state. Similarly, in Congress camp in Rajasthan, there is freebies, there is the cylinder at 500 rupees, there is the welfare schemes of Mr. Gehlot, but there is also strong anti-incumbency against Mr. Gehlot's MLAs. In fact, last time in Rajasthan, the slogan was that Modi, Rani teri khair nahi, par Modi tujhse bair nahi. This time the slogan which is speaking about in Rajasthan is that Gehlot tujhse bair nahi, but Gehlot ke MLA ki khair nahi. So that is the feeling that the Congress is facing in Rajasthan. And in Chhattisgarh, I feel the BJP feel there'll be a surprise because BJP has been in power for 3 terms before the Congress did a complete turnaround in the last election and won with over a whopping 10% vote share gap, Zaka.
That's right. It was a 2/3 majority for Bhupesh Baghel, and the factional feud there seems to be far more in control than what we're seeing in Rajasthan, because Mr. Dio has now been appointed, of course, as Deputy Chief Minister as well. So what impact that may have, we'll wait and see. But just to bring you up to speed, if you've just tuned in, the dates are announced for the 5 states that are going to go to polls this winter. You have 679 seats that are at stake between these 5 states. The big date is the verdict day. It's going to be on 3rd December. In the first week of December, you will get the results for Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Mizoram, and Chhattisgarh, of course. Let's break down which state goes to polls when. It starts off with Chhattisgarh, of course, which goes to polls in 2 phases. The first one is on the 7th of November, and the second one is on the 17th of November, which means that Chhattisgarh alone in this round will go to polls in 2 phases, presumably because of the left-wing extremism issue there and the rotation of paramilitary forces. Then you have Madhya Pradesh, which goes to polls on the 17th of November, all 230 constituencies in one single phase. Rajasthan goes to polls on the 23rd of November, again, all 200 constituencies in one single phase. Telangana will be the last state to go to polls on the 30th of November. All 117 seats will go to polls on one phase, that's the 30th of November. And finally, counting day is the 3rd of December. We're now getting a first reaction from the Congress party, and the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has now just put out his reaction on the poll dates on the social media handle of his. The poll dates have been announced by the Election Commission. Mr. Kharge has just posted, Congress will go to the people with strength, is what Mr. Kharge has said. He's also gone on to add that the Congress will be in a winning position in these North Indian states, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. It'll be the farewell of the BJP is how Mr. Kharge has characterized this. Let me now go across to Pallavi Ghosh if I can. Pallavi Ghosh, so all right, we have our guests. Let's go across to them first. We have Sanjeev Srivastav, Arun Anand is also joining us, and of course Javed Ansari is there with us as well. Sanjeev, let me start with you first. So the dates are more or less straightforward. Chhattisgarh 7th and 17th, Madhya Pradesh 17th, Rajasthan 23rd and Telangana 30th. No surprises there in terms of the phasing of these elections?
Well, the only surprise, if you can call it a surprise, is that last time, if I remember, in 2018, the counting was on 11 December. So everything is a little preponed, if you may, by a week or so. But that's fine. It's a very crucial election, so the sooner the better. The election is happening. The results, I've been hearing everyone, yes, there is a lot of difference between state and national elections. But remember 2018, after the state election results came, there was a lot of talk about BJP being a little defensive, a little iffy, this, that, and then Pulwama happened. So that was a kind of a game changer. So while we talk about this segregation of the two elections and also the very fact that Mr. Modi himself brings a lot on the table when a national election is held, not in the state. But unless some big ticket event happens between the state assembly elections and the national elections, you just can't write off that the state assembly elections are different ball game, and so it will not have much of an impact on the national elections. It does have a psychological impact. It does boost the moral and conversely punctures the moral a little bit of whoever wins and loses. So it is a very crucial election. And
no, but you know, the reason why we brought that, not just the 2018 and 2019 connection, but let me ask this to Arun Anand and Javed Ansari as well. You go all the way back, 2013-14, the BJP won both in Rajasthan and in Madhya Pradesh, and of course in Chhattisgarh as well, and of course in 2014 there was the big Modi wave. But you go back to 2008, the Congress won in Rajasthan and the UPA won the 2009 general election, but the Congress lost both in Madhya Pradesh and in Chhattisgarh, and the UPA still managed to come to power. So, you know, you go back 20 years and you see this sort of pattern, if you will, that the way the state goes does not necessarily be the way in which the country goes 6 months later when the Lok Sabha election happens. So let me ask Arun Anand that. Even if the BJP is on a sticky wicket, and presumably it is, particularly in Madhya Pradesh, maybe even in Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, they're hoping that it will repeat the pattern that we're seeing for the last 25 years, that alternately there will be Congress and then BJP, Congress and then BJP. But even if the BJP is on a sticky wicket for this winter elections, Arun Anand, does that necessarily mean you can extrapolate that to the 2024 general?
Zaka, I don't think, no, you can, I think there's a decoupling of assembly elections and Lok Sabha elections which has happened. And the reason is largely because earlier the assembly elections used to impact to some extent the Lok Sabha elections also, especially many people have termed it as a semi-final. But that was a time when you didn't have a towering leader like, or a mass leader like Narendra Modi. So when you don't have a mass leader at the helm of affairs at the center, then the assembly elections do tend to influence, but the Lok Sabha polls also. But I think because Narendra Modi, the kind of stature he has attained and the kind of popularity he has, so the even if BJP wins elections, these assembly elections or some of these states, so I think that doesn't, matter beyond a point. The assembly, and now it's a well-established fact that the assemblies election, people are voting differently in assembly elections and people are voting differently in Lok Sabha elections.
Okay.
And I think Narendra Modi continues to be an X factor, so I don't think it's going to impact much.
Rahul wanted to make a point. I think it's a fair thing that Arun was saying, that when Mr. Modi is on the ticket, it's a different ballgame.
Exactly, because you look at the outcome in 2019, the BJP got its best ever tally, but Maharashtra was up for grabs. Delhi had no resonance in the assembly elections in both Maharashtra and Delhi. That was all within a 6-month, 8-month period. So what I'm trying to suggest here is not so much really when I talked about, Mahal and Hawa. I think for the Congress, this is a very crucial examination. It's an examination of its coherence ideologically and the new plank that it is actually putting forth, which is the caste survey plank, which suggests that, look, we are the party that actually defends the interests of all of those who have been continuously let down by the political establishment, whichever that might be. Secondly, we also have a leader who can take on Mr. Modi. He also has a direct connect with the people. Look at the Bharat Jodo that he has been able to institute and the message that goes with it. The Congress has positioned itself as a liberal democratic option to what many consider is a more exclusivist narrative that the BJP puts out. Though the BJP will never admit to that, it always says that, look, we are the party that carries everyone along, sabka saath, sabka vikas. But the way the Congress has approached this entire election is by suggesting that, no, the BJP represents only a very slim bunch of people in this country, and it is genuinely an exclusivist party that divides the country. The Congress's message, if it actually strikes a chord, there will be problems for the BJP in 2024. If it doesn't, then there is a complete decoupling of this particular result from what is going to happen.
But Javed Ansari, you know, the other factor, and I think Pallavi Ghosh had also mentioned this earlier on in the program, for the Congress is absolutely essential to win these elections and win them big because they're standing within the India alliance. Their primacy within the India alliance also becomes a big question mark if the Congress does not do well in these heartland states. And let's face it, even in the Lok Sabha next year, about 180 seats, mostly in the Hindi heartland, are direct fights between Congress and BJP. There it doesn't matter what NCP is thinking or what National Conference is thinking or what Samajwadi Party is thinking. You know, ultimately in many of these heartland states, about 180, like I said, and in 2019, the BJP won over 160 of those 180. So the Congress, for it is almost essential that it wins these states, these winter elections, in a way that it establishes itself as the fulcrum of the India alliance.
Well, most certainly, without an iota of doubt, there's a lot riding on the Congress. The stakes are much higher for the Congress in the state elections than they are for the BJP. Not only must it burnish its credentials as the national alternative to the BJP come 2024 Lok Sabha elections, but even within, it will also affect the dynamics within the India alliance. Right now, one main reason why the Congress has not gone full throttle on seat adjustments is because they're waiting, they're hoping to do well in these 3 state or 5 state elections, and thereby it will strengthen their bargaining position. Because right now, if the seat sharing arrangements start, then the Congress will be fighting less than just about 200 seats. So if you fight just about 200 seats and assuming, for argument's sake, that you have a 50% strike rate, even then that means 100 seats. So it doesn't leave them. And assuming again, for argument's sake, the rest of the allies get more than 100, then they will demand that they should be the ones leading the coalition government rather than the Congress party. So for the sake, like Rahul made that point, the Congress needs to burnish its credentials. Congress needs to win to strengthen its own hands and also strengthen it will. If the Congress wins these elections, at least the optics, as far as the optics are concerned, that will be even.
Even if the Congress has to go from wherever it is now, 54 or 55 seats to, let's say, 100 seats, a bulk of it has to come from these states. I mean, it maxed out in southern states, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, etc. But if they have to go from 54, 55 to 100, a bulk of those seats have to come from this 180 direct contest that they have with the BJP. Just give me a moment, Javed. The other factor, 2 big factors will be put to test in this winter election. One, as Rahul mentioned a moment ago, this is the first after the caste census. This whole Mandal 2.0 versus Kamandal 2.0. How is that going to play itself out? In Madhya Pradesh, for example, where the OBC factor is a huge factor, and Mr. Chauhan has been claiming, and rightfully so, some would say, that he is the tallest OBC leader that the state has seen in the last 20 years. This is how the OBC-dominated seats voted in 2018. The Congress had the edge there. They had 34 seats. The vote share also about 1% or so higher than the BJP. The BJP had 29. This is out of 67 seats where the OBCs are dominant. Whereas if you go back 5 years prior to that, when the BJP won the state, the BJP had almost twice, in fact more than twice, of the number of seats. BJP had 46 and the Congress had only 21. Even the vote share difference is substantial, almost a 7% vote share differential in the 2013 Vidhan Sabha election as opposed to 2018. So in that sense, Aman Sharma, this caste census and the way in which the BJP has to respond to this caste census will also be a sort of subtext, if you will, in these states, particularly in MP, yes, in Rajasthan as well, and maybe even in Chhattisgarh, but certainly in Madhya Pradesh.
Absolutely, Zaka. Caste census is going to be a big issue in this election. It is being put to test in these elections. So if we see Mr. Kamal Nath in Madhya Pradesh has already announced that if his government comes, there will be a caste census in Madhya Pradesh. Just last week, 3-4 days back, we saw Mr. Ashok Gehlot announcing that he will begin a caste census in Rajasthan as well. So the Congress is very clear about this. This is their trump card in the election now to break in a way, the Hindutva vote of the BJP to drive a division in that, and no less than the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, from an election stage just 10 days back has already said that the whole aim of the caste census, whole aim of the INDI alliance is to divide the Hindu vote. So in a way, BJP is very, very cautious about this narrative coming about the caste census. On the other hand, the Congress is very clear, be it Mr. Ashok Gehlot, be it Mr. Kamal Nath, or be it Mr. Bhupesh Paghel in Chhattisgarh, everybody is batting for the caste census, taking a cue from the Bihar caste census which has just happened, and this will be a big challenge for the BJP, though the BJP is saying that it is the biggest champion of the OBCs. It has given them representation in political sphere, amongst the MLAs, amongst the MPs, in various other government jobs, and everything has been done by the BJP. But still, there is an issue here that the Congress is harping upon, that a caste census is something at a state level. It could be a big issue for the Congress and something that it is going to capitalize on in these elections as we go ahead.
And what is the BJP's sort of coherent, unified response to that? Because they can't be seen as being against it either, and yet at the same time, they can't be seen as for it because it is somebody else's idea. Somebody else seems to have taken the lead on that. But I want to talk about a state we haven't touched upon quite enough over the last hour or so, and that is Telangana. It'll be the last state to go to polls on the 30th. Results are on the 3rd of December. Here again, and it's very interesting how the Hawa, the Mahal seems to have changed in the last 6 months or so. 6 months ago, it was assumed that this will be a bilateral, bipolar fight between the BJP and the BRS or the TRS. The BJP had some wind going behind its sails, particularly after the Hyderabad Municipal Corporation elections, where it ended up being number 2. But in the last 6 months or so, it's fair to say that either it's become a trilateral or a tripolar fight between the TRS, the Congress and the BJP, or if you were to go one step further, it could possibly even be a straight up fight between the Congress and the TRS, with the BJP being a third player. Rahul, what's going on in Telangana and what kind of impact may this have, again, nationally? Because you remember this in 2004 and 9 when the Congress won, the UPA won. It's recorded in Sanjay Baru's book about how Dr. Manmohan Singh, congratulated Rajshekar Reddy and said, I'm here because of you, because they won big in United Andhra. And ever since the state has been divided, the Congress has been struggling, both in Telangana and in Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, that's going to take a little while to rub off. That sort of betrayal that many people associate the Congress prevarication on the issue of bifurcation. But more than that, I think fundamentally, these 4 states in the south are crucial right now, not so much for the dominant players there, but for the Congress and the BJP. Remember, while we have made a huge sort of virtue out of the fact that the BJP's conversion rate in the north is almost 90%, that is also a bit of a liability because they have maxed out in the north. They need to be pushing forward in other states, the eastern belt and the south. The BJP will be concerned after losing Karnataka that it hasn't really been able to consolidate and grow in the south. So for the BJP, this election will be an important marker to tell it whether it is actually gaining traction on the ground or not. For the Congress, again, as you were saying, if it's going to go toe-to-toe with the Bharatiya Janata Party in the north, it has to, of course, win a large number of those battles, but it also has to be able to pull together in the south. Again, this will be a proving ground for the Congress party in Telangana. Look, Karnataka looks like a state where the BJP may not be able to replicate the success of its 2019 showing. So the Congress can expect to perhaps still hold some ground there and perhaps even make up some ground there at the extent of the BJP. But again, in Tamil Nadu, Kerala is another state where the historic trend was bucked. So you don't quite know which way that state is going. So Telangana and Andhra become 2 very crucial battlegrounds again for the Congress party if it needs to really construct that story that it is the party of alternative governance in this country. And I don't know if that has been able to, if that message has been able to sort of percolate down to the public in Telangana at least.
The other reason why Telangana becomes important, and the Prime Minister alluded to this when he was on the campaign trail there last week, Sanjeev Srivastava, I'll bring you in on this. This whole business of TRS is the B team of the BJP, there is some kind of understanding between the TRS and the BJP, and the Prime Minister blew that whole charade open by saying that there is no taluk between the BRS and the BJP. In fact, he went on to say that KCR has not even received him at the airport for the better part of the last 2 years. He also went on to reveal parts of that conversation that he had where in one conversation he wanted to join the NDA and the Prime Minister denied it, and in the second conversation he wanted to pass on the reins to his son KTR, and again the Prime Minister seemingly questioned that. So that in a sense has blown this whole charade that's been put up that the BRS and the BJP are in cahoots. Something that the Congress also keeps saying. I think Rahul Gandhi said that in his rally in Hyderabad a few weeks ago, that it is the Bharatiya Janata Party se Rishtedar Samiti. So please walk us through why Telangana becomes crucial both for the BJP and for the Congress from the point of view that A, it's a foray into the south, and B, the relevance and importance of regional players also comes down if either of these two parties is able to challenge the BRS, maybe even come to power in that state. That would change the dynamics of some of these big regional players going into 2024. Sanjeev.
So first of all, Zaka, the issue about KCR and BJP being bedfellows. So Prime Minister made an allegation. It was very soundly and roundly denied by KTR, KCR's son. So it's his word against his. So we may always choose to believe that Prime Minister's word is more weighty. But at the end of the day, it is politics. He is there campaigning for his party and he wants to discredit KCR, and KTR tried to say that no chance in hell they'll go and side with the BJP. That's one issue. But the bigger issue really is whether it is the BJD or YSR Jagan Mohan Reddy or KCR, post-elections, when push comes to shove, when their turf is not being challenged, when their state politics, state dominance is assured, all these parties will tend to side with the dominant pole in the center. So that way they'll be bedfellows with either UPA or NDA or BJP, whoever there is center, because that's where their balance of convenience lies. So it is not that some kind of a sworn enmity, like to some extent, at least on surface, it is between Mamta and the BJP.
No,
So
I think the other factor, which, I mean, it'll be a bit of a spillover effect, if you will. If the BRS were to be defeated in Telangana, then the BJP will have to seriously think about its presence in Andhra, because Andhra goes to polls along with the Lok Sabha. And there, right now, the BJP seems very cagey of getting into an alliance with the TDP because of its own history. And despite, Mr. Naidu being in jail and supposedly the sympathy factor, etc., I think the BJP is predisposed to keeping Jagan in its good books in case, like you said, if the need arises post-election. But if the BRS were to lose, then I think all bets are off the table. Then the BJP will have to take a long, hard look at its presence in Andhra Pradesh. But let me also get some of our reporters in.
I think
they've been waiting. Sharon is there at the Election Commission headquarters. Arunima is there as well, and Payal is joining us from the BJP headquarters. So let me go across to them as well. All right, we don't have reporters just yet. Okay. Oh, all right, Sanjeev, finish your point and then I'll go to the other guests.
No, I was just saying BJP is already taking a long, hard look at its options and what all possibilities lie in store. While we keep on emphasizing how these state elections are so crucial for the Congress party to make their presence feel, to make them go beyond this mid-50s number to 70, 80, 100, wherever destiny will take them.
Okay.
It is equally important or more important for the BJP. That, see, the whole oomph factor, the whole 56-inch, the whole jalwa, if I use a Hindi word, of BJP is beyond 300. So where are they? We talk about BJP being, Rahul just said BJP has maxed out in North India. South India, they have no scope. So BJP actually has a bigger problem on its hand. What if they begin to lose some seats across states? And this caste census, I don't think it will have much of an impact in states like Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. But what will happen to Bihar, where they got 95% of the Lok Sabha seats? So BJP, I think, is already having a very long, hard, serious, somber look at the potential scenario which may unfold post 2024. I think the bets are really off on to 2024.
1 second. Rahul wants to come in. Just 1 second. Yeah.
I'll just take that logic forward very quickly, and that's the point I actually wanted to make, is that look at the South states in a potentially tight contest in 2024 as the kingmaker states.
Yeah.
I think that's fundamentally where their importance lies right now. And that will have a huge bearing. In fact, the South states will want to do very well in the Lok Sabha because remember what comes after the Lok Sabha elections. In 2026, there's going to be a delimitation.
Correct.
If the South states hold the key to power at the center, that delimitation exercise becomes an extremely important and rather difficult to guess which way it will go. So let's look at these South states as the kingmaker states.
I also want to bring out that India, what we call the Saffron footprint graphic. It's a stipe graphic. So there you go. This is how the BJP's expansion has happened in the last 10 years or so. This is May of 2014, just before Mr. Narendra Modi became Prime Minister. The NDA was in power in 7 states, primarily in the North Indian states. The only exception was Andhra Pradesh, of course, where they were in alliance with the TDP, and that alliance famously broke in 2019. But largely they were in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh. 7 NDA-ruled states in May of 2014, just when Mr. Modi came to power. Today, in October of 2023, it has shown the physical expansion of the NDA. They continue to be in power in North Indian states, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, of course, in UP. That's a big one that got added in 2017. And again, the mandate was renewed in 2022. They've also added Maharashtra, which is a state, again, they won first in 2014 and then subsequently lost it for a brief while and then have managed to wrangle it back now. And then look at the Northeast. Every one of those states in the Northeast, all 7 states, the BJP has a presence, either ruling on its own or in coalition in the northeastern states. This also shows, while it shows the BJP and the NDA's expansion, it also shows its weakness and the areas geographically where it has not expanded. The southern states is one big area. The eastern states, Bengal, Odisha, and of course the entire eastern seaboard, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana included there the BJP does not find presence. And I think that is something that the BJP will be acutely aware of going into 2024, because, as Rahul said, they maxed out both in 2014 and in 2019 in the Hindi heartland states. Where are they gaining? Where are they growing? What are the catchment areas for the BJP? Right now, the eastern flank and the southern flank seems to be areas of weakness, and they will be acutely aware of that. The big challenge, of course, would be to retain some of the states that they're in power in right now in the winter elections, certainly in Madhya Pradesh, because it's the biggest of the lot. They will be hoping to come back to power in Rajasthan with this whole cyclical nature of politics there. But let me go across to Pallavi Ghosh as well. Pallavi, so, both the principal national parties, BJP and Congress, these winter elections are absolutely essential for the BJP to ensure that the Hawa and the Mahal is in its favor going into 2024, and for the Congress to show that it is the only national party capable of taking on the BJP. None of the other smaller parties part of the India alliance, TMC, Aam Aadmi Party, Samajwadi Party, etc., come anywhere close to the Congress's geographical footprint and its ability to take on the BJP.
Absolutely, Zaka. In fact, even at the Congress Working Committee meeting, this point was raised by the Congress leaders that look at the statistics and look at the track record. Whenever the BJP has been halted, it's largely been because of the Congress party in state elections and even otherwise. And the fact is that if anyone can stop the BJP at the central level, because it's largely going to be a two-party fight, that's what they're pitching for, and the Congress has much to offer on the table. And in all these upcoming state elections, it's actually a straight fight, barring Telangana, where it's between BRS and the Congress. In all the other states, it's Congress versus the BJP. Now, if the Congress manages to win at least 2 of these states, for example, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, where it's very, very hopeful of, then it's going to go back to the drawing board. It's going to go back and tell the India Front allies that, look, we could do it. And therefore, if you really want to stop the BJP, the only way it is able to do so is that you take a national party like the Congress party to match up to the BJP. And therefore, there's a fit case for giving more seats to the Congress party, even in contentious states like Punjab.
All right, Pallavi, we'll leave it at that. All right, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, I believe, is speaking. He's, of course, the incumbent chief minister in Madhya Pradesh. Let's listen in to his first reaction after dates were announced for elections.
मध्य प्रदेश शांति का टापू है, शालीनता का प्रतीक है। देखिए, चुनाव हम जरूर लड़ें, लेकिन चुनाव लड़ते समय हम व्यक्तिगत आरोप, प्रत्यारोप, उनसे बचें। ये शत्रुता नहीं है, तो विचारधाराओं का संघर्ष है। कौन सी पार्टी आनी चाहिए, सब शालीनता के साथ बड़प्पन से अपनी अपनी बात कहे, सरकार अपनी बात कहे, प्रतिपक्ष अपनी बात कहे, और बहुत अच्छे माहौल में मध्य प्रदेश का चुनाव हो, ये मेरी सबसे अपील है। कैसा रहेगा?
Singh Chauhan, the incumbent chief minister, he's not been named as the chief ministerial face going into this winter election, but we'll see. how it plays out for him. His ticket from Budni has not been announced yet either. 79 seats have been declared, seats which the BJP has traditionally not won in Madhya Pradesh. But I want to talk for a bit about Rajasthan as well, because there again, for the last 25 years, since 1998, we've had alternating governments. Congress, then BJP, then Congress again, almost like Tamil Nadu used to be or Kerala used to be. But the castes that could play a critical role, there's always this Jat versus Meena fault line in Rajasthan, even though the Jats are not as dominant in Rajasthan as they are, let's say, in Haryana, but there are about 30-odd seats where the Jats hold sway. And they have 17 of those 30 went to the Congress last time at 35% vote share. In fact, the BJP won just 5 of those seats. Hanuman Beniwal, who's a big Jat leader at that time, at that election, was not allied with the BJP, and that, of course, proved to be a bit of a sore point for the BJP. The other dominant caste, of course, are the Meenas. And again, there is always this fault line, who is an ST, who is an SC, and so on, who belongs to the OBC community. Fewer seats where the Meenas are dominant, but again, there the Congress last time around got 7 out of 12, the BJP only had 4. And then, of course, there is the Rajputs, who are again a very, very dominant factor. I mentioned this last time around as well. Vasundhara Raje was born as a Rajput and then married into a Jat family. So can she bring both the Rajputs and the Jat vote banks together? Here again, out of the 30-odd seats, it was more or less evenly split between the Congress and the BJP. Congress slight edge there, 17 to 14 of the BJP. But the vote share, less than 0.5% between the two parties. So the Rajput vote, the Jat vote and the Meena vote are going to be crucial in the state of Rajasthan. But do you see, Rahul, anything on ground to try and break that cyclical pattern of, the incumbent being voted out and the other party being brought back to power?
Well, look, of course, 5 years of incumbency, and that is, something always to contend with. Now, of course, Mr. Gehlot has brought out a large number of welfare schemes, etc., perhaps in a bid to counter that anti-incumbency. But the fact is that the election in Rajasthan, much like in Bihar, etc., depends on how you balance the caste equations. And I think Sanjeev Srivastava will be able to talk us through that a little bit more, because it's really about weaving that tapestry. Raje's great strength was that she appealed to a large number of castes. Yeah. Gehlot also has that very cosmopolitan so-called appeal amongst large sections of the population, comes across as a son of the soil. Huge advantages there. Remember, the BJP doesn't at this moment have a very strong lineup, as in one dominant leader. Even for that matter, Mr. Pilot has found it difficult to convince his own high command that he actually is the future of the party. So I think Sanjeev will be able to tell us how this works on the ground.
We'll try and go across to him. I think they're just patching his line back again. But let me also go to our reporters. I think Payal is there as well. So Payal, one thing, and Arunima is there as well. Payal, one thing that the BJP has decided this time, despite what we saw in Karnataka, is to not declare any CM faces. Even if there's an incumbent sitting chief minister, as in the case in Madhya Pradesh, they're saying the only face we're going to project is that of Mr. Modi. Why such a strategy?
Well, generally the strategy of the BJP is not to project any face, and they say that the parliamentary board decides it and, the legislative assembly decides it. But very strange that Shivraj Singh Chauhan does not find a place, given the fact that it's a given. He's a sitting chief minister. Even more interesting that his seat has not been announced, even though the BJP has announced 79 seats. So obviously the BJP does understand that the anti-incumbency is against Shivraj Singh Chauhan. He's been in power for several terms. He's probably one of the longest serving chief ministers in BJP's longest serving bastion. Madhya Pradesh is the oldest organization as far as the BJP is concerned, and obviously as far as Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan go, they do not have a choice to project anything right now, because they're looking at getting a government in place over there. There's of course Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan are both states that are actually ruled by the Congress party. But Rajasthan, certainly Zaka will be a big headache for the BJP, because Rajasthan leaders are leaders who take a lot of pride in what they do. It's a lot about pride over there, and that's one of the reasons to just snub Vasundhara Raje Scindia at this point in time might not be exactly the thing that BJP may want to do. People say that she controls about 30 to 45 seats where she has a presence and where she has a lot of say as well. Okay. Can the BJP really take a chance as far as that is concerned? That remains to be seen. And of course, at the time when you have passed the women reservation bill, when you talk about women empowerment, will you empower Vasundhara Raje Scindia, one of those lone women chief ministers of the BJP ruled states? That's the $1 million.
All right, Payal, we'll come back to you. I think Rahul wanted to make a point before I go to Chhattisgarh.
Yeah, you know, Chhattisgarh, I'm just getting on to that because you pulled it up. The point here is that if you really look at the fine print of the data, 100 seats were won. They changed hand with less than 5% margins.
Yeah.
And if you really look more closely, 54% of those contests have actually happened with even lesser margin. And this has happened all through the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So this particular state, while the Congress, looks very dominant on paper, those margins are very, very small.
Absolutely.
And I find it very interesting if you really look at the way the elections are going to take place, the dates. So Chhattisgarh goes first, then Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Because in Madhya Pradesh also, the contests were very tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the opposition has made a point of this earlier, that look, while electioneering is going on in one state, voting is going on in the other, and that might have an influence both ways. You might already, and look, it's a known fact that a large number of political parties were very well organized, have their electoral machinery down on the ground, and they pretty much know which way the state is going, which also influences tactics in the next state, in the next election. And I think the way this election, I'm not trying to say that the Election Commission in any way is working at any instance, but it is interesting because if Chhattisgarh is this rock-solid state for the Congress, narrow margins of victory, if things start changing there on the ground, it will have an effect on Madhya Pradesh and then from Madhya Pradesh on to Rajasthan. Think about it, Zaka, the day Rajasthan is voting or Madhya Pradesh is voting, or Chhattisgarh, of course, is voting, there's a campaign raging in the other states.
Yep. All right, just give me a moment, Rahul, because I think Gajendra Shekhawat is speaking. He's a union minister, possibly one of the faces for the BJP if it were to win that state of Rajasthan. Let's listen to what he's saying.
जनता ने सरकार को सरकार मानना समाप्त कर दिया था, विश्वास करना बंद कर दिया था। थोथी घोषणाओं के थंबों पर टिकी ये सरकार, जिसने भ्रष्टाचार को, जिसने बलात्कार को, जिसने बेरोजगारी को, महंगाई को, पेपर लीक को राजस्थान की पहचान बनाया, वो सरकार अब जाने वाली है। उसकी अंतिम तिथि आज इस घोषणा के साथ में सुनिश्चित हो गई है।
The Water Resources Minister, again, like I said, possibly one of the faces for the BJP if the BJP were to win that state. But I want to quickly bring you up to speed with Chhattisgarh because, again, this whole dissonance between how a state votes in the assembly election and how it votes in the Lok Sabha, this is a classic example. This is how Chhattisgarh voted in the 2018 Vidhan Sabha election. It was a massive sweep for the Congress. It was, removing the BJP from power after 3 terms. So 68 seats out of 90 the Congress had, and a massive vote share difference as well. 43% vote share to the Congress. The BJP was down to just 15 seats and with just 32% vote share. In fact, 11% was the vote share difference between the Congress and the BJP. This was a 2/3 majority for the Congress party. This was 2018 Vidhan Sabha, winter of 2018. And then in the summer of 2019, 3-4 months after that, look at this. If you were to split the Lok Sabha results by assembly segments, the BJP would have won 66 out of 90 assembly segments and the Congress was down to just 24. Again, the vote share difference 10% more for the BJP and the Congress just 41% as opposed to the BJP's 51%. So the difference really, the BJP won 10 out of 11 seats in Chhattisgarh in 2019 in the Lok Sabha, and if you were to deconstruct those 10 Lok Sabha seats, it would translate to 66 assembly segments. So I'll give Arunima the final word to wrap on this. Why does the Congress believe, Arunima, that in the 2018 Vidhan Sabha result, where it had a 2/3 majority, it doesn't stand to lose? Even if it loses, it won't lose as much because the window is there between 68 and 45, which is the halfway mark, that they believe that Bhupesh Baghel will be voted back.
So let's look at Chhattisgarh in the way EC is looking at it. 2 phases. One phase is the Bastar, the tribal dominated areas, extremely backward. Only recently has started seeing government presence there with CRPF camps opening there. The second phase, more urban, sharing borders with Madhya Pradesh. What has really worked for whoever has come to power in Chhattisgarh? One thing that has worked is rice. Free rice, procurement of rice, ensuring that tribals have access to rice. That has always been a factor there. And Bhupesh Baghel has added to his agricultural policies, has added the mix of soft Hindutva. What is he doing? He's talking about procuring cow urine. He's talking about building a grand Ram temple in Chitrakoot. So what the Congress believes is that the tribals and the urban voters there, together with these two policies of Bhupesh Baghel, can be wooed for the assembly elections. Raman Singh, the chief minister who was defeated by Baghel, his presence as far as election campaigning goes, electioneering goes, the sentiment on the ground is that Raman Singh is far less visible. The conflict with T.S. Singhdeo and Bhupesh Baghel, that too seemed to be resolved, and these are the factors which is making Congress party confident. But I also do want to point out, Zakat, since we covered Rajasthan so extensively, the thing about difference between how voter votes in Assembly and Lok Sabha, I saw that for myself in Rajasthan also. People who were happy with Ashok Gehlot's, political measures, the freebies as they are being called by the opposition there, they too are very clear that in Lok Sabha they would want to give their mandate to Prime Minister Modi because they are happy with the image that he has created for India in the international arena. But in Assembly, they are willing to think about a non-BJP option.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Arunima. So, like I said, the die has been cast, the dates are announced. Now it's a question of the battle lines and the battlefield being thrown open. It's by and large a straight fight between the BJP and the Congress. Whether or not this will set up the big final of 2024 and whether it'll have any rub-off effect from the winter of 23 to the summer of 24, we'll all be here. Myself, Rahul Shivshankar, we'll all be here at CNN News 18, India's #1 news channel, and the channel that's cut its teeth for its election coverage all through the next month and a half. Stay with us. Like I said, the big counting day is December 3rd, and we'll be bringing you extensive coverage through all the polling days of various states and the big build-up on December the 3rd, which is result day. Thank you for tuning in. My colleagues will now continue the news cycle right on the other side of this break.
מתוכם. נהפוך אותם לאיי חורבות. אני אומר לתושבי עזה, צאו משם עכשיו, כי אנחנו נפעל בכל מקום ובכל העוצמה. בשעה זו מתארים כוחות צה"ל את אחרוני היישובים ממחבלים. הם עוברים יישוב, בית, ומחזירים את השליטה לידינו. אני שולח חיבוק ותנחומים מעומק הלב למשפחות השכולות שיקיריהן נרצחו היום בדם קר ובאכזריות אין קץ.
Well, CNN News 18's Siddhant Mishra spoke exclusively to Israeli ambassador to India till 2018, Daniel Carman, about the Hamas attack on Israel. He discussed Israel's game plan next and the situation on the ground right now. Listen in to what the conversation was.
World is expecting perhaps something big is going to happen in next 24 hours. How do you read these developments?
Well, first of all, we have to state the obvious. We are in a state of war.
Okay.
Since yesterday, when Hamas terrorist organization attacked our country. A terrorist organization that during those years has gained strength, has become an army, has become a political ruler of the Gaza Strip, and yesterday has surprised us, I would say, unprecedented way. On the one hand, launched thousands of rockets, hundreds of terrorists on vehicles, walking from the air, from the sea, in a very planned attack, infiltrated the territory of Israel, entered into villages, towns, and localities, actually attacked civilians, not soldiers, attacked civilians, went into houses, massacred the elderly, children, toddlers, women, men, people who were in a festival a couple of kilometers away, thousands of people in the middle of a festival. We had yesterday our 26/11. Yesterday, 26/11, the Israeli surprise, shock, rage, anger, but at war, like in a war, we are going to respond and we are going to win this war. No doubts about it.
Okay. Sir, looking here, watching from...
The wrong aspect is that apparently a lot of those coverage was being funded by Chinese-linked forces. The bent of those news reports seems to be more questioning India versus what is Chinese propaganda. Don't you think that that is something that should come under the scanner?
A gaming app running around doing business for nearly 4 to 5 years. One of the founders decides to have a lavish wedding, 250 crore ki shadi, and exposes 5,000 crores worth of scam as per the ED.
There was some sort of sense that the language on the war, for example, was diluted.
Great admiration goes out to the team around Prime Minister Modi, not only about Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
It has so many other very important areas tackled in a very constructive way.
Yes, sir. Sitting here in India, we can say it is 10x of 26/11. What options are available with Israel right now? The counteroffensive is already launched. Operation Iron Swords is going on. There have been airstrikes in Gaza Strip. Perhaps, and we have been told in the next 24 hours, 28 to 48 hours, we can expect something big. So what options Israel has now when it comes to counter or perhaps to defend its own people, its own territory? What options are there?
I have to say one very important thing. We have been used, unfortunately, to short rounds of hostilities with Hamas in the past 15 to 20 years. Usually they would end within 2-3 days with mediation from the Egyptians or maybe other parties, and then some arrangements would be made, and then we would have quiet until the next time. This time is different. This time is different because of the magnitude of the attack, because of the cruelty, the beastly way in which they massacred, the October massacre, I would call it. The situation is different, and the response by Israel will be different. I don't know if it will take 24 hours, it might take more, but the response this time would be fierce and forceful, and it will show Hamas, the rulers of the Gaza Strip, I can say, that with Israel you don't play games, and you don't you should not play with Israel. Israel will have its response. First of all, regaining control in those areas where we still don't have control. I have to say that when these operations...
Welcome back. You're watching the Breaking News Show right here on CNN News 18. We were bringing you coverage so far on the elections. Now we're continuing to bring you coverage on the situation between Israel and Palestine and the domestic responses to it. First, let's move to politics that continues over the Prime Minister's statement that came out over the weekend. The CPM in particular putting out this response. This is a former Kerala Minister, M.A. Baby, who's put out this response. We'll play it out for you in just a second, but the key points in his response. A, he's called the Israel government an extremist government. Number two, he's hinted in his statement that this attack could have been engineered by Israel. He's also said, we've never abandoned Palestine. Take a look at this set of statements. After that, we'll connect with reporters to interpret them.
So what is the reason that you have said that it was not the right decision of the government to express solidarity with Israel?
You see, this question of Palestine, it's not something new to the government of India. Even during the freedom struggle, Mahatma Gandhi had opined on this issue. And Mahatma Gandhi extended the solidarity of the freedom movement to the Palestinian cause. For Netanyahu, aggravating the relationship with Palestine is something which he needs for managing his internal political, difficulties. He has formed the most rabid right-wing government with all sorts of, right extremist forces. Like, for example, Hamas. Hamas is a militant organization. You can term it as an extremist organization as well. By the same yardstick, you have to define the Benjamin Netanyahu government as an extremist government.
Why do you think it was wrong on the part of Mr. Modi to express solidarity with Israel?
Because
what else he could have done?
Yeah, he could have done a different position, approach. He could have said that the hostility should come to an end. Armed attacks and counterattacks will not solve the Palestinian problem or the problems that Israelis are facing. They are also facing problems. No, India bloc parties, we have not come to any conclusion that on each and every issue we should have a common approach. We have lot of differences. For example, Congress has been following economic policies which CPIM never accepted. Economic policy is very important for the lives of the peasants, workers, unemployed youth, women, all. So we have differences there. But we have total unanimity in seeing that this RSS-controlled right reactionary government led by Narendra Modi should be removed sooner than later. There we agree. On many other issues we have differences that we will discuss as and when it can be discussed.
कांग्रेस का हाथ हमेशा इस्लामिस्ट जिहादियों के साथ, कट्टरपंथियों के साथ आज ये फिर से साबित हो चुका है। जिस प्रकार से गहलोत जी के करीबी और राजस्थान युवा कांग्रेस के नेता ने हमास का, आतंकवादियों का न केवल बचाव किया है बल्कि उन्होंने जो हमला इजरायल के निहत्थे लोगों पर, बच्चों पर, महिलाओं पर किया, उसका जश्न मनाया। एक तरीके से आतंकवाद के समर्थन में खुलकर आने का काम किया है। ये वही राजस्थान है जहां पर कन्हैयालाल जी के गले को काटा गया, एकदम आइसिस स्टाइल की तरह उन्हें मार दिया गया। और उस समय पर भी वोट बैंक के नाम पर किस प्रकार से जिहादियों का, किस प्रकार से आतंकियों का समर्थन करते हुए, कट्टरपंथियों का और दंगाइयों का समर्थन करते हुए राजस्थान की कांग्रेस पार्टी दिखाई दे रही थी, वो हमारे सामने है।
All right, we have our colleague Shireen to bring us more context on this story. Shireen, the BJP Shehzad Poonawala's reaction, we just played that out to what it is that MA Baby had to say earlier. And Shehzad says that the Congress always supports extremists. But can you just tell us, Shireen, what are the responses we've seen over the weekend from INDIA alliance leaders? So spotlight for us what the Congress had to say. Who were they wishing for peace for? Then could you tell us about other INDIA alliance partner reactions?
Well, so far there has not been a joint statement by the India alliance as far as the Israel issue is concerned. But Congress as a party has in fact issued a statement saying that they condemn the brutal attack on the people of Israel, and in fact went on to say that at the same time they do believe that the legitimate aspiration of Palestinian people for the life of self-respect and equality is something that can only be achieved through a proper talk, a negotiation that needs to take place. But as far as the attack is concerned, that is something that has been condemned by the Congress party. And we have seen such same sentiments being echoed by different parties within the India alliance. But as far as the left is concerned, the CPIM leader here M.A. Baby has in fact been saying that the attack that has happened as far as from the Palestinian side, from the Hamas is concerned, that is something that is in retaliation because of the attack that has been happening on them for years altogether. So now, of course, we have to see how the Congress party sees this statement that has been coming in from the left at this point, because when the Congress party was in power in UPA 1, UPA 2 as well, the Congress party has always maintained that as far as the issue between Israel and Palestine is concerned, that needs to be sorted out with proper dialogue. There needs to be a negotiation, and this time again they have stood to the same stand. But left party, of course, has been saying that this is an the Israel government is an extremist government. Hints that these attacks could have been engineered by the Prime Minister in Israel itself. So this kind of statement that is coming in saying that, in a way, supporting, saying that these attacks are retaliation. We have to, of course, see how the other partners within the India alliance are going to take this, and whether they also have the same stand as far as the CPIM is concerned.
Can you just tell our audience, please, Shireen, the responses that we've seen coming in from the I&DI alliance? So you said, A, that there's not been any joint statement, but that we have seen statements coming in, for example, from leaders of the Congress. What do those statements specifically say about Palestine? Do they say that there is a need for a solution? Who do they express support for? Is it the civilians? Can you bring us more context?
Well, as far as the statement is concerned, it was about a 10-line statement which basically said that the Indian National Congress condemns the brutal attack on the people of Israel. Any government where there is, in fact, outsiders trying to attack the citizens of a country, nationals of a country, is something that is not cannot be taken at the right way. In fact, they went on to say that they have always believed that as far as the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people for a life of self-respect, equality and dignity must be fulfilled, but only through a process of dialogue and negotiation. Violence of any type never provides a solution is what the stand of the Congress party is. That is why they have went ahead and condemned. And remember, this has always been the stand of the Congress party in UPA 1 as well, in UPA 2 as well. They have always maintained a balance. They have never outrightly, taken a side. But this time they have, of course, condemned the violence here. And they have said that a process, the entire issue when it comes to Israel and Palestine, that needs to be sorted out with dialogue. Now, with Congress party coming out with such statement and left having an opposite opinion as far as the entire issue is concerned, there could be differences the next time the meeting happens. We are also we have also given to believe that at the CWC meeting there is going to be a discussion on India-Canada, India-Israel as well. There is going to be a statement that will be once again released by the Congress party. So we'll get a more clearer picture as far as the foreign policy is concerned of India. A statement will be released by the Congress party after the CWC meeting.
Okay, Shireen, I'll actually ask you to stay with us. More news in a very, very similar aspect. AIMIM Chief Asaduddin Owaisi saying that Israel has stopped the routes to the Gaza Strip. He's saying they've destroyed the airport. He's saying it has become an open-air prison. He's saying the oppressor in this situation is Israel. Israel has been suppressing Palestine for a very long time. We'll play out for you what the AIMIM chief has to say. Then we'll go back to my colleague for more context.
आप लोग को चाहिए कि बीजेपी के एक बहुत बड़े नेता जो आज इस दुनिया में नहीं है, जो इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री थे, जिनका वीडियो बड़ा वायरल हो रहा है, उनके भाषण को सुन लीजिए आप। उन्होंने फ़लस्तीन के बारे में क्या कहा था कि अरबों की ज़मीन पर कब्जा कर लिया गया है। हमने एक पोस्ट स्टैम्प निकाला था, सॉलिडेरिटी विद पैलेस्टाइन, वो भी आजकल देख रहे हैं आप लोग। हमारी शुरू से पॉलिसी फ़लस्तीनियों की तायीद में रही है। इसमें शिफ्ट आया जब कांग्रेस की सरकार थी, ऑस्लो एग्रीमेंट हुआ, और ऑस्लो एग्रीमेंट में कहा गया था कि वेस्ट बैंक और गाज़ा में इंडिपेंडेंट पैलेस्टीनियन कंट्री बनाया जाएगा। 5 साल जाके 30 साल हो गए। तो इसकी जिम्मेदारी ऑस्लो एग्रीमेंट की सब पर थी, यूएसए पे थी, यूके पर थी, यूरोपियन नेशंस पर थी।
Okay, let's go back to our colleague Shireen to understand more context here. All right, we'll go back to Shireen in just a few seconds. Until we do, let me just explain to you the INDIA alliance. Remember, the AIMIM is not a part of it, so we will not be looking at the statement in that context. Instead, we'll be looking at how similar this statement is to what it is that we spotlighted earlier, M.A. Baby's statement. Remember, both statements are coming in defense of Palestine, so not in defense in any way of the Hamas's actions. But yes, in both statements, we see both leaders expressing their sympathy for communities in Palestine. Remember the Gaza Strip that we are focusing on. It's in the Gaza Strip, from the Gaza Strip, that missiles were fired on Saturday morning into southern Israel. It's the incident that struck off this latest conflict. You'll remember a few hours ago, late into Sunday evening, Israel announced formally that it was going into war with Palestine. Now, in this series of events, we've seen a number of countries express their solidarity with Israel. That's a statement that we saw coming forward first, as we told you, from Prime Minister Modi. This statement came in over the weekend where he condemned these acts. He also said he stands with the Israeli people. You've also seen a number of other Western countries express their solidarity with Israel in the last few hours. We'll talk about them in just a second. Most prominently, obviously, the United States and the EU that have both reconfirmed their support multiple times. Remember, as we're telling you right now, the Hamas has called this operation Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. As we told you, it started with 5,000 rockets from the Gaza Strip into Israel. Now, we're going to show you footage behind me. These are all visuals we've got over the last 48 hours. So right from Saturday morning, tracking up to today morning. These are different visuals. Number one, the IDF, which is, remember, the Israel Defense Forces, striking 10 Hamas terrorist organization targets. These are visuals that the IDF is providing, as you can see on your screens. I'll move very quickly to the next visual. We're going to proceed through a series of visuals in the next few minutes. Now, these are developments that came in late yesterday. The big fear was a fear of land invasion. 2.5 million people. And late last night, we showed you these visuals of tanks, Israeli tanks, heading towards Gaza. The big question remaining, what would take place overnight and how expansive would the Israeli retaliation be? These are visuals that we've got coming in of the Israeli army firing artillery on southern Lebanon. Now remember, Lebanon is towards the north, largely, of Israel. And it's from here that the Hezbollah had fired missiles early in the morning over the weekend. Those were considered warning shots. The Hezbollah also came out with a statement saying they stood very much in support of all the action that had come in from the Hamas. Over here in this next set of visuals, as you can see, the IDF striking a compound of the intelligence department. Once again over here, you can see these are visuals of Hamas. Now, what makes it very, very tricky in these operations is when it comes to that population of 2.5 million people that lives in the Gaza Strip. You do have the Hamas often using civilian cantonment, civilian living areas as the launching pads, which makes it very, very tricky to target them. Here you can see the Israeli Defense Forces striking a compound, as we've told you already, of the intelligence department. Again, we're switching over here between Hamas and Hezbollah. For these stories, remember, we are talking about the Lebanese outfit Hezbollah. They've launched rockets, as we told you, earlier yesterday into Israel. Experts largely believe those are just warning shots meant to express solidarity with Hamas, largely because it is believed that Lebanon does not have the military might to enter a full-scale war with Israel at this point, as they have in the past. As you can see over here, Israel Defense Forces striking Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure. So again, action taking place towards the north. These are visuals coming to us from the north. Remember, what took place on Saturday itself, as you can see, meant that militants entered into the country from the south, scattered across different towns, which is why the Israeli effort has had to be so expansive over the last 2 days. It's also why Israeli civilians have had to remain at home, within bomb shelters, protected. Okay, this last set of visuals, the IDF, as you can see, the Israeli Defense Forces, once again, these are visuals similar to visuals we showed you earlier. They're striking over here Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure. You can see these visuals coming in. We're moving on now. Again, we're moving from Hezbollah again to Hamas. These are the visuals coming in of missiles that continue to be fired from Hamas. That firing is taking place both ways. So you also have, as we've told you, Israel firing out missiles into that Gaza Strip region. a region that is known as one of the most densely populated regions in the world. It's very small, and as we've told you already, 2.5 million people. Civilians are taking shelter, we're learning, in UN chartered schools that are in the Gaza Strip. These are visuals coming in of rockets crashing into buildings. This is in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is up north, so it is quite far away, in fact, from where it is that the Gaza Strip is located and where the initial strikes took place. But in Tel Aviv too, civilians have had to take shelter in bomb shelters. But remember, civilians in Tel Aviv, in Israel, have bomb shelters often built into their housing. As you can see over here, visuals of the IDF retaliating after the Hamas attack. We've seen wave after wave of attack come in since Saturday morning. This is an operation that experts believe was planned perhaps for months in advance. One of the big questions that we will analyze and talk about later is this big question: how did Israel miss the signs? We'll take a deeper dive. Right now though, reactions that have come in to this story from the ground. Take a look.
फ़लस्तीन के ऊपर जो जुल्म होता आया है गुज़िस्ता सालों से, और वो एक बहुत लंबा टाइम हो गया है इस बात को, तो ये चीज़ रुकनी चाहिए और ये जुल्म रुकना चाहिए। और अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी एक ऐसा इदारा है कि हमेशा जब जब दुनिया के किसी कोने में जुल्म हुआ है तो उस जुल्म के ख़िलाफ़ यहाँ के तलबाओं ने और यहाँ के लोगों ने आवाज़ उठाने का काम किया है। फ़लस्तीन के समर्थन में हम फ़लस्तीन के साथ खड़े हैं, और हमें जो है अफसोस है और हमारे दिल में तकलीफ़ भी है, और हमारी दुआ है, और हमारे तमाम जितने हमारे मुस्लिम लीडर हैं उन तमाम लोगों से हमारी दरख्वास्त है कि वो जो है उनका सपोर्ट करें।
70 सालों से जो फ़लस्तीन जुल्म का शिकार है, वहाँ पर हमारी बहनें, भाई, बुज़ुर्ग आए दिन हम लोग देखते रहते हैं कि वहाँ पर हमेशा से जुल्म के शिकार होते रहे हैं और वो जुल्म अभी तक ख़त्म नहीं होता है। तो हम लोग आज अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी से एक एहतजाज है हम लोगों का कि जो भी जुल्म हो रहा है वो जुल्म रुके, और हमारी दुआ भी है हमारे जो भी भाई इस दुनिया से रुखसत हो गए, अल्लाह ताला उनको मग़फ़िरत करे।
We are ready to assist them, cooperate with them, and hope that the government of India also will immediately act on it. We want to protect our Kannadiga. Anyone who needs help from our who belongs to our state or anyone in the country, we don't mind helping those who are in need of in this crisis.
ಸರಿ, ಅವರ ಹಮಾಸ್ ಜನರು ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾರನ್ನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡುವಾಗ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ರೂಮಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ ಇಸ್ರೇಲಿಯನ್ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅವರು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಬಿಂಗ್ ಈಗ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತು ನಿನ್ನೆ ನೈಟ್ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಒಂದು ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಇಸ್ರೇಲಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವರು
The UNSC met on this issue a few hours ago. However, they failed to arrive at a joint statement. It's time for a short break. On the other side, in just a few minutes, more of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in a few minutes.
More than 20 localities which the terrorists got control of for hours. Now there are 2 or 3 places left. First to regain control, then to make the terrorists pay a heavy price to what they did. And then we look strategically at the long term. We look also at other potential fronts. You know that in the same way that we have Hamas in Gaza, we have our enemies, again, terrorist organization in Lebanon, both of them, by the way, financed and trained and encouraged by a state member of the United Nations called Iran. And we have to be careful also regarding the potential threat from Iran.
Now, as Israel has launched its massive counter-offensive against the Hamas militants, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
All right, we're now moving to very exciting news from the sporting world. More coverage on the Asian Games. We're learning the Prime Minister will be interacting with and addressing the contingent of Indian athletes who participated at the Asian Games this year. Remember, India sent its biggest ever contingent of 600 plus athletes for this Asian Games. Now, we're learning this interaction will actually take place tomorrow at 4:30 at the Major Dhyan Chand Stadium. We'll bring you more details about it in just a second. We'll have a reporter joining us to bring us more details on India's medal tally. This was, as we told you, a 655-member Indian contingent that participated at the Asian Games. They'd set a lofty goal of 100 medals and they met it. India's Asian Game 223 medal tally was 107 medals. That's 28 golds, 38 silver and 41 bronze. Now, my colleague Payal is with us to bring us more context. Payal, this is something we were telling our audiences too, that there'd been a target, an unofficial target of 100 medals that was set. This contingent very much matched that, 107 medals coming home. Can you tell our audiences more about this moment of pride and what's expected tomorrow?
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be hosting the athletes who are coming back from the Asian Games with a stupendous number of medals. Like you said, a record 107 medals have been won. A large number of gold medals have also been won. And normally when these athletes come back from a winning spree, the Prime Minister always holds them at their residence. But since the gathering is going to be big, the number of people who are going to come in are really big. So the Prime Minister is hosting them at his the Dhyan Chand Stadium in the national capital. He is expected to them understand from them what has been a part of their journey, the winning journey. He's also will be giving them a lot of pep talk in terms of how to go forward, prepare for the big games ahead as well. So it's quite an interactive session we're expecting. So last time around when we interacted with the Olympic players, he did share their stories, he did share their experiences as well, and also told them what he has counted in terms of challenge in his career as a prime minister and as a politician also, and his association with sports.
Can you just tell us, Payal, let me tell our audiences very quickly and then I'll come to you with a question. India surpassed its last tally. So last we had 70 medals. This was in Jakarta in 2018. We surpassed that, as you can see, by more than 30 medals. And what's even more special is that only 4 countries won more than 100 medals this time. India obviously being one of them, the others being China, Japan and South Korea. Now, Payal, can you tell us more of what the headlines are going to be, what the key takeaways are going to be when the Prime Minister meets these players? Because these are players obviously distributed among multiple sports. We've won medals in multiple different spaces. Can you bring us more context?
Yes, it's going to be a very important address to watch out for, because the Prime Minister not only is going to congratulate personally all these medal winners. 107 is a big number, given the fact where India is coming from, like you said, in 2018, which is a 70-odd medals. But the way in which the Indian sport has progressed over the years, especially the fact that we saw a record number of medals coming in, even during the last Olympics that were held, and also the Paralympics that were held, and we saw athletes really excel. So obviously the headline will be from the Prime Minister that you can do it, each one of you can do it. We are there to support you in whatever manner we can. But each of you are an ambassador for the country. So if you bring glory to the country, it takes a lot of sweat and blood to bring in medals to the country for your achievements, and may you continue to inspire other people. Because we've seen in the past, when the Prime Minister has had a conversation with athletes, he's followed this up, asking them, they've gone ahead and gone to school, discussed, the history of Indian sports, etc. So quite a bit of that is also expected. It's expected to be a very light conversation, expected to be a lot of interactive session as well. Of course, Union Minister for Sports, Anurag Singh Thakur, will also be present at the gathering. He's also expected to speak to the athletes. So it's a big moment. Indian athletes have come back with a century of medals, and this is something which the country takes a lot of pride in.
Can you tell our audiences, Payal, what experts had predicted for these Asian Games? To what degree did our performance match that? If you just take a look at the medals, largely they've come in the areas of athletics. This was something that was very much predicted. Also, of course, shooting, rowing, these are really some of the big winners. When you just take a look at that list, archery, wrestling, these are all the areas where this was expected. So the message that's gone home, what has that been to the Sports Ministry, for example?
The message that has gone home is that India can do it and Indians can do it, and if given the right platform, if given the right approach, our athletes can actually win medals as well. Archery is a sport which is very, very ancient to India. It is something that India has known from the Dronacharya age as well. That's something which we were able to showcase to the world. We picked up with athletics in a big way as well. Neeraj Chopra has been a big finding as far as India is concerned. Essentially called the golden boy for no obviously for every possible reason. That's how it is referred to. So each one of them is a pride in itself, and for even those people who manage to scrape through, or people who manage to not win, for them also there's a takeaway saying that you compete. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. There's no point of really mulling over your loss. There's no point of sulking over your loss. You represented the country, a country of 140 crore Indians. That's something which the Prime Minister is definitely going to highlight. And hits and misses is something which he's going to also discuss. I'm expecting it will be a two-way communication tomorrow.
Payal, thank you for bringing us all of those details. This is a story we're obviously going to continue to track. This is our last story of the day too, right here on the show. Thank you for staying with us through the breaking news show on CNN News 18.
The wrong aspect is that apparently a lot of those coverage was being funded by Chinese-linked forces. The bent of those news reports seems to be more questioning India versus what is Chinese propaganda. Don't you think that that is something that should come under the scanner?
A gaming app running around doing business for nearly 4 to 5 years. One of the founders decides to have a lavish wedding, 250 crore ki shadi, and exposes 5,000 crores worth of scam as per the ED.
There was some sort of sense that the language on the war, for example, was diluted.
Great admiration goes out to the team around Prime Minister Modi, not only about Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
It has so many other very important areas tackled in a very constructive way.
With me, Ayushman Singh Jamwa. Ladies and gentlemen, our top story amid the Israel-Palestine conflict, which continues to rage, a political dispute has arisen now in India. While the Indian government supports Israel globally, especially when it comes to the aggression against terrorism emanating from Palestine, there's growing political tension at home now. PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti has called for a resolution to the long-standing Palestinian dispute, characterizing the reaction to the sudden attack on Israel as selective. She condemned Hamas's attack on Israel but emphasized that this situation highlights the futility of silencing others through force. Now, even the CPIM's M.A. Baby has described the Israeli government as extremist and suggested that these attacks might have been orchestrated by Netanyahu, because remember, he is also facing a lot of political flack back home. And in the state of Israel, any conflict with Palestine is always great political capital. That is the pitch that is coming in from the left parties. He contrasts India's support for Palestine with Modi's Israeli ties, saying that India's ties, especially the Modi government's ties with Israel, shows an endorsement of the extremist attitude of the Israeli government. That is the pitch coming in from the left party. Now, at the same time, Prime Minister Modi could have called for peace, is something that the left parties continue to pitch, and that is a stand that is coming in from many voices within the opposition camp. The CPM stance may not impact India's alliances, but that pitch has come in from many opposition parties saying India should intervene when it comes to trying to provide some level of peace. Meanwhile, Aligarh Muslim University saw pro-Palestinian protests, but not without opposition. Israel has been under attack since Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, with over 700 casualties and people stranded in the conflict zone.